Good evening. Welcome. And I will call this meeting of the Pittsboro Board of Commissioners to order for April 14th, 2025. As our tradition, we'll start with a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Farrell, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everyone rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We have in front of us the agenda and the consent agenda. Is there changes to either or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to the new business two resolutions that I will read to the board, and then we can discuss them, perhaps vote on them.
Okay, so Commissioner Foley just distributed two resolutions. We'll make action item number 5, the resolution titled "A Resolution Requesting a Change in Current Policy from President Donald J. Trump and the Executive Branch of the United States Government regarding PFAS, PFOS, and the pausing of funds to be dispersed under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act." And then we'll make action item number 6, a resolution requesting change in current policy from President Donald J. Trump and the Executive Branch of the United States Government regarding tariffs.
Thank you.
Is there any other changes? All right, take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin. Second, Commissioner Bonitz. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved. Thank you, Commissioner Vose. Second, Commissioner Farrell. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We have no information items this evening, so we'll start with our ceremonial items. And we have a resolution for the Youth of the Year and the Junior Youth of the Year. So if you can join me at the podium. There we go. All right. A Town of Pittsboro resolution in recognition of the 2025 Youth of the Year and Junior Youth of the Year. Whereas the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Carolina provide a safe, positive, and engaging environment for youth across Lee, Chatham, and Harnett counties to grow, learn, and thrive. And whereas the Boys and Girls Club, the Pittsboro Boys and Girls Club, the newest site of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Carolina, was established through the hard work and dedication of the steering committee and the generosity of our community. The Pittsboro Club site officially began serving youth on October 18th, 2021. And whereas each year, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Carolina honors outstanding members who exemplify leadership, service, academic excellence, and commitment to their club values through its Youth of the Year program. Whereas Evan Bland, a founding member of the Pittsboro Club and current junior staff member, was named 2025 Youth of the Year for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Carolina in recognition of his involvement in programs such as Passport to Manhood, Torch Club, Peer Leaders, and his leadership both within the club and the broader community. And whereas Scott Johnson, a dedicated member of the Pittsboro Club since 2022, was named 2025 Youth of the Year for his positive attitude, strong character, and active participation in Passport to Manhood and Peer Leaders. And whereas Evan Bland represented Pittsboro and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Carolina at the state level, where he shared his inspiring story and demonstrated the lasting impact of the Boys and Girls Club mission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pittsboro Board of Commissioners hereby formally recognizes and congratulates Evan Bland and Scott Johnson for their outstanding achievements and contributions as Youth of the Year and Junior Youth of the Year, and extends our deepest appreciation for their leadership, service, and dedication to making our community a better place. And this will be adopted the 14th day of April, 2025. So if I can have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second, you Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin. Second, Commissioner Bonitz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you all for coming too. Up next is Citizens Matters. We will start with the manager's update.
All right, real quick, dog park relocate, that'll start tomorrow and major work starts Wednesday. Hopefully have that done by the end of the week. The light poles at the skate park, that got moved up a couple of weeks, so those were removed today. So staff will be working to do the grading out there properly and then get that fence put in, so we can get the insurance folks out to look at it, get that insured and open for the public.
Where do you think we are on that?
Getting it open. It's a couple of weeks to get the grading and fence work done, considering our current workload, and then probably a couple of weeks to get the insurance folks out. So hopefully the next month or two. Thank you.
When I drove by it on Sunday, the sign was blown over. So I'm wondering if we could secure the sign because it's closed, correct? That's what the sign is for. And the tape is low. And if I'm a youth, I'm probably going to be invited to go participate there unauthorized. So maybe anchor the sign however we can.
Yep. And we've got some grants that we're working on, historic landscaping plan for downtown through the Hart Family Fund for small towns. The idea is just to get a little bit of money to hire a landscape architect with a historical focus and then create some documentation on how people can landscape their properties historically. And so just a small grant that we're working on through Main Street. Looking at a $750,000 grant through the community project funding with Representative Fashid for the streetscape project. So we're about 800-ish short on that project. So this would close that gap significantly. That's due in a couple of weeks. They only gave us about a 3-week head start on it. So we're hoping to have that done by the end of next week, end of this week, sorry. And then we're finishing up an EV grant through Volkswagen Settlement Phase 2 for EV chargers in downtown. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Are they going to be located, the chargers? Where are they going to look?
So there were the two triangles, the two parking triangles that are on the north side of the historic courthouse that abut Hillsborough Street that the county pretty much gave us. Looking at those two sites.
Okay.
All right. So I wanted to start my update with a congratulations to Jonathan. He was named a 40 under 40 in the Triangle Business Journal. I've so far neglected to mention it to him until this moment right here. So, so congratulations on that. And that is a big honor in this area, and just proud to have you here and have other people recognize that. So
Appreciate it. Thank you.
congratulations.
Nice to be on.
For ribbon cuttings, we had one for the Clyde Jones mural restoration last Sunday, I believe. So that was really cool. co-hosted, I guess, with First Sunday there. And had the artist, and Clyde was there, and a birthday celebration with Clyde, so that was a really great event. Over the past month, we had the Main Street Conference, March 11th to 13th. And I think more news to come from there next meeting. But we had a couple award winners from Pittsboro with Doherty's for infill development, and everyone associated with that project. And then Tiana Thurber for the Main Street champion as well. So we'll honor them next month. March 22nd, there was the courthouse fire film in the courthouse. So that was a good opportunity. And then just yesterday was Clyde Fest out at here. Here. So that was a really fun event. Also very well attended. 23rd year for that, I believe. Upcoming April 29th to May 2nd is City Vision, National North Carolina League of Municipalities Conference, and the North Carolina Mayors Association. I'll attend those. And CPRPO, we had a meeting. We're going to meet more about the upcoming prioritizations and the projects associated with that. So we'll be bringing you some stuff there soon. With economic development, Jack Pendergraph is leaving the organization, going to the private industry. So that's a big loss there, but wish him well in his future endeavors. And that's all I have. Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin.
I actually don't have anything because the Central Pines Regional Council meeting is set for April 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. And of course, it's a public meeting, so you can all attend. You can attend in person or via Zoom.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonitz?
Yes, just a couple odds and ends and then a climate update. I want to express again gratitude to staff for the work on the chain barrier along Sanford Road near the ABC store and the SoCo. I imagine that was an interdepartmental effort, and I know it also took a lot of work with DOT, and there's a lot of efforts ongoing, so thank you. Thanks also to Colby Sawyer for sending out the April 4th notice or press release about the county's revaluation process. I've been getting significant questions about that, especially from my neighbors in Chatham Forest, and appreciate that formal communication. Regarding the County Climate Change Advisory Committee, the key update from the last meeting is that the CCAC is on the county commissioners' agenda for this coming Monday regarding a climate process. The advisory committee is delivering a resolution supporting a climate retreat for commissioners and staff. The suggested focus of this retreat is going to be on impacts of climate change occurring in Chatham County now and in the future, the appropriate responses and resources for the development of a climate action plan. This explicit purpose of this gathering, as recommended by the CCAC, is to undertake a deep dive into current and likely near future impacts of the climate crisis in Chatham County, to receive a briefing on elements of local government climate action plans, and to identify appropriate funding sources and personnel for development of a climate action plan. And I just want to keep this board up to date on the county board's efforts. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrell?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Commissioner Foley?
First off, Clyde Fest was just a blast. I know I saw Commissioner Bonitz there, and I'm sure you were there, Mayor, and Mr. Vose, Commissioner Vose also. I love where it is, and there's plenty of parking now. It doesn't have the same Bynum feel, but we are growing, and I think this is a great spot for it. Lots of great volunteers and a lot of fun interaction with kids.
Thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for thinking. I also had a ribbon cutting for Century 21. They moved their office down the street right behind Strickland Oil Change. I guess that's 902. It's very strategically placed because the brokers there can show houses on the north side and this new coming south side. So it's very, very strategically placed. There was a statewide housing study completed by National Association of Realtors, and I passed it out to the commissioners. There is a website, it's called the GAP Study. Very, very up-to-date material for housing in the state of North Carolina. And there's a link below that you can find those. They separated out by county. And Chatham County is like a gem right in smack in the middle of that, but when it comes to growth and to valuation. So I highly recommend if you can access that website, just look at the trends and where we're headed. I recently went to Raleigh for legislative days that last week, and there are a number of bills in the House and the Senate right now that will directly affect us here in Chatham County. And our municipality specifically. These bills are on zoning, land use, infrastructure, housing, and elimination of ETJs with Senate Bill 493. I recommend that we reach out to our representatives, Robert Reeves, Natalie Murdoch, to carve out an exemption for this bill for the actions that they will be voting on. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Vose?
I didn't make it to our last ABC board meeting, but I do know that store number 2 is slated to be open around the middle of next month. I attended our budget retreat right here, which is just a really awful way to describe what we actually did that day. I attended a downtown advisory board meeting on April 1st. It wasn't a retreat. I also attended the Clyde Jones mural restoration ribbon cutting and First Sunday.
Should we start it for next year?
Well, Russian, apparently.
Waterboarding.
All right. For public comment, we didn't have anyone signed up this evening. And we don't have any public hearings. So our first action item is a request for the Night Farm PARTF project. Hello, Jake.
We have a little presentation for you today. You're looking to apply for the PARTF grant, which stands for Parks and Recreation Trust Fund Grant. This is through the NC Division of Parks and Recreation. This is a 50-50 match. You can request up to $500,000. So the max that we would be matching would be $250,000. So our site that we are looking at for this is going to be Night Farm Park. And ooh, it's coming. Here we go. So these are the 4 areas that we're looking at implementing potentially. And so I say potentially because the relocation of the dog park, that's going to be across the parking lot. So what do we put in place of there? One is the open space soccer field. One is where the one is the outside of the shelter. And then another one is across the parking lot, but it's like a little open space area. So this was one of the designs. We wanted to come up with something that for different phases, the existing amenities that are out there now are really catered to the smaller age groups. And what we really want to prioritize for all of our parks, especially, is being able to have something for everyone who attends, no matter your age or ability, all of that, right? So here are the different options that we have put out there. One being the picnic tables as additional individual picnic tables, right, that are outside of the shelter right now. That's what those four little dots are. And I'm going to go through them really quickly. And I just like to preface, like I said at the information meeting on Saturday, this does not mean we are going to do every single one of them. This grant will not cover that. What we were really looking forward in the beginning is to go for the phase that is in the area that is where the existing dog park is as of right now, not where the newly relocated is, but once that's relocated. If we get an overwhelming feedback from the public that they prioritize something else, that's what we will pivot to, correct? So here, we'll start with the next one. Here are the different options that we have. So again, like I said, a lot of the feedback that we have gotten, and that's how we made this design, is over the years for feedback that we've received and creating a space again for all age groups to be able to have something to do, right? So additional solar seating. We have next year the budget to have Wi-Fi at Night Farm Park. So does the public value having, we've heard shade, always more shade over there at individual picnic tables. Is it a priority for solar seating in that? So where you can charge your phone or charge whatever you need while you're sitting there at the parks. Next. A mini multi-purpose court that is going to be on the other side. So this would be where on the right side where the existing dog park is. And it could be anything from when I say multi-purpose court, something that is like a mini basketball court. You could put some little soccer goals on the end of them, or you could go something in a completely different direction, like the bottom right, which is called a Toro, which is a completely interactive playground court. And each of in the middle of it, it's hard to see in this picture, they have play panels and there are 13 different games that you can play on them. And so each is essentially like a panel, a TV screen or something like that, where you could play interactive games. So it's an electronic system, so that some of them that you have seen is you have that game option, but then you could have a basketball in the goal in the middle of it, so that if you don't want to play that, you could be playing basketball. Multifunctional use is what we're looking for. Outdoor games, which would be right next to the natural playground area on the far side. So it would be the first part of the dog park, small dog park area, if you will. And that includes a mini putt course or putting green, and a foosball table or outdoor ping pong table. I've seen those done pretty successfully in some other parks as well. Next. We all the time get a request for more shade or more shelters that are over there. So given the amount that our existing shelter is rented out, we could potentially have an additional shelter on the other side of the mini court that we were looking at. Outdoor exercise equipment. This is something, especially on the loop of the greenways surrounding the park, might be an ideal amenity that people might be interested in. And then one of the last options would be the multi-purpose field with an additional greenway connection that would connect to the existing greenway, but that would go in front of the field. And last, an amphitheater. So these were all things that are on our list that we've been asking for public feedback. We had a public information meeting this past Saturday, which we had 26 people attend and got feedback on, which was great. This also coincided with the Easter egg hunt. Mara, who is our recreation coordinator, put that on. It was very successful. We had 77 kids and around 116 adults. So altogether, we had around 220 or a little bit more people at Night Farm Park from 2 to 3. So that's pretty nice. It's pretty awesome. So these are some of the things that we discussed. And again, we're really trying to push people that if they couldn't attend the information meeting, to please fill out the survey, because we really want the feedback. So far, we've had 113 responses in 4 days. So we're hoping to do a really large push for the next week and a half or so to see, and we're really, really excited about this. So yeah, we hope you guys would be too.
Thank you.
And was there feedback from the Parab?
Yes, they approved for the motion. They all agreed on a lot of these in the angle that we were especially taking for public input and really relying on that. And they approved from their end that to apply for, made the similar motion of approving for the pursuing the PARTF grant.
And any feedback on the particular furnishings or amenities that might be?
Or shade has been a big one. There wasn't anything in particular that really stuck out to them. They really liked all the different options for over there. I was very open with them too. Some of the feedback, at least from the surrounding area of people that live near the Night Farm Park, we have gotten a lot. And to be clear, I gave this disclaimer too to our friends that at the information meeting, just because amphitheater was up there, that does not mean that we were putting an amphitheater in. We're just collecting feedback. So there's a lot of concern about noise, and we hear that too.
I have a question, Katie. The outdoor games in the photo where the rocks are, what type of game is going to be in that section?
A putting green or a little putting course. That one is, it can look, you can use it as a putting green, or you can have like one or two small little holes right there for putt.
Leave those rocks in there?
Oh, that's just an example.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the rocks.
That's right.
So we'll try
Not-
those out.
Yeah, the rocks will likely be taken care of if we get that other grant that we applied for the accessibility to put the pour in place.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested in the feedback you're receiving, and not just necessarily feedback, but the response. It sounds like you're doing a really good job about soliciting, and also with the Easter egg hunt. How are you doing that? Was it signs, flyers?
So we put it in
Website.
the weekly journals and in the news edition, Carrie, the journal, the Chatham News Journal, that we did for the past 2 weeks. And then we have done it on Facebook for pushes. And I've actually reached out to a couple of local groups that have some strong Facebook groups that are pretty involved to see if we can push them through there, at least for the survey, or if somebody would like a meeting to have that discussion.
Thank you. Doing a good job. Thank you.
Katie, one question. Over at Night Farm, have we replaced some of the mulch with that soft padding? Didn't we have that in
So that was, yes, that was the previous grant, the accessibility grant that we applied for last month. And we won't find out until the end of May if we receive that. And that would allow for the pour in place to put in where the existing mulch areas are.
And one other question. Explain the solar seating to me.
So the solar seating is, they're individual picnic tables, right? So you have like 4 little benches in a circle, right? And each one has a shade, but on the shade are some solar panels on them. And so it's a charging station, essentially. So you can charge your phone, or you can charge a laptop, or something like that.
I think we would check the cost on that, because I would imagine solar would be quite a bit in running power, wouldn't it?
Right. It's a little bit, it's about 3 times as much as a regular picnic table would be.
Thank you.
Another question, please. So right now, the dog park is on a slope. And the area right to the left of that dog park is a slope. Are we going to cut in and add a retaining wall, or is that
Yes.
part of the expense?
Yes, that's part of the expense that we would do, because we'd have to do some significant grading on that side.
Okay.
And so all of that would be included into the grant.
You would have to go to a 3-1 slope over there.
3-1.
Would make for a great sledding hill in the winter.
It's a year.
Yeah, just a couple kind of off the cuff responses. The mini golf, I'm pretty excited about that myself. But having recently played mini golf up in Williamsburg, I would prefer that we leave that to the private sector. And I'm hopeful, I don't know how long it's going to take for it, but it's just such high maintenance.
Windmill got in your head, huh?
Excuse me?
The windmill at the putt.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, everybody breaks the
Wow, you.
wheels off. So, that's my understanding of it. If you're in touch with other municipalities that have better data, I'm sure, than my anecdotal evidence, but, that's my inclination. And, I've actually fantasized about it. Not myself, but attracting, a business to do mini golf. I'm also less enthusiastic for the electronic amenity you described. The multiple games, that also sounds like something that's just ready to get broken and then sit damaged for a long time, or a higher cost of replacement or maintenance. The outdoor games, otherwise, I'm really attracted to that. I think those are very exciting and dynamic and engaging. The amphitheater idea, I could understand. I anticipated those thoughts and concerns from neighbors. But it's been several years, but I had the experience of a very small neighborhood park in Durham has a very small wooden stage for kids to just, pretend to put on a play. Not big enough that it would warrant having amplification or lights or anything. That feels like a fun thing that might fit that park. Maybe just a downsizing of the amphitheater. Yeah. And yeah, double thumbs up on shade. I hear it as well. And so glad you're hearing that. And congrats on getting 26 people to the event. That's wonderful. And 220 people total. So that, again, that incorporated the Easter egg event?
So we had to do a little pivot because of the rain. Originally, we were going to do the Easter egg hunt on the open space field right now where the new dog park is going to go. However, with the rain, we pivoted and we were able to put the Easter eggs around some of the different areas on the outside of the shelter. So it was a little noisy, but it's a good thing I talk really loud. So
there you go. Cool. All right. And in future, I would really appreciate seeing the Paribs perspectives on your staff report, the advisory board recommendation. I think that would be appropriate there. So thank you.
Kate, I have one more question. On one of these, that concept plan, can you point out where the new dog park will be, please?
Gotcha.
Okay,
Oh, right here.
it's gonna be there. Okay,
It'll look a little different than that. It kind of will be reversed.
okay.
Small dog park at the top, but that's pretty much where it's going to be.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Actually, I remembered one more. Looking at that, what's it called? The concept plan, the aerial view. I see something that looks like a soccer field. Is that what the Chatham Park investors are intending to do, or this is our project?
this would be our project. The multi-purpose fields that were in discussion with Chatham, that is a different site location. This would be a part of the grant, if that is an option, that we get overwhelming reviews that, hey, we would like to implement this at this site.
I recognize this is outside the context of the question at hand and the agenda item we'll be voting on, but can you orient me as to where they are thinking of putting in those private fields?
So it's directly to the left of the YMCA,
Okay.
where the new YMCA is.
East.
East, sorry.
And we're still in discussions with Chatham Park on what that's gonna look like in terms of the public-private partnership, we'll call
Okay. Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve staff to apply for the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant and authorize mayor to sign certification.
Remove.
Commissioner Bonitz, thank you. Second. Commissioner Foley, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And up next is the ordinance for a skate park.
So I'm not sure if y'all have had time to review the ordinance that we are up for. We're looking at amending the current ordinance that's under the Parks and Recreation in chapter 93. And we're suggesting a motion to adopt the addition of sections 93.20 through 93.26 and 93.30 to 93.34 to the Town of Pittsboro Code of Ordinance.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you summarize very quickly the intent and purpose?
So the intent and purpose is to outline what our expectations are, and this is something that we looked at and were advised for with our insurance agent, and saying that, hey, we need to make sure that you're required to have one, skating at your own risk if this is a skate at your own risk site. And we set it up in the future as if there were potentially additional sites or things like that, it could be skate at your risk or not skate at your risk, right? Or if we were going to be there in attendance the whole time. For this one, it's a skate at your risk. And then the requirements of having a helmet, safety elbow pads, and safety knee pads, ensuring that everyone was aware of, hey, the overall hours of operations are like many of our other parks of sunrise to sunset. And having in some other, just a little bit of wording from a protection perspective.
To require the safety equipment in an ordinance is allows the town to be indemnified from any liability if somebody gets hurt.
Oh, if someone chooses not to wear the helmet and all of that, what would the result be if they fall or if they don't fall, if they're just there? Because I know sometimes children don't want to wear helmets and all of that type of thing.
So when it falls back to the skate at your own risk, we are not able to, we don't have staffing, we're not able to police that. However, if we are going by and we are seeing things like that, we have to, these rules are going to be outlined, obviously, on the fencing and things like that. We are able to address that and say, that's why you put it in the ordinance, to make sure that we are able to correct that and say, you have to, this is an ordinance, these are our rules, you have to have this protective gear. If not, we can prevent them from coming back and utilizing this facility.
Okay. All right, thank you.
The changes in Article 2, I'm fine with those. I would like to pause on the changes for Article 3 with a more careful review to encouraging non-vehicular transportation. I'm of the opinion that skateboards are a valid mode of transportation. And my reading of this is that would prohibit use of skateboards on public streets. And I don't think that's what we want to do, especially if we have bike lane. I mean, unless we have a budget already allocated to put up appropriate signage in all of our bike lanes to indicate that roller skating is acceptable there.
Right, and I think this specific ordinance is only for the skate park in itself, not in the surrounding areas.
Article 2 is, Article 3 is like Mr. Bonitz talks about.
And what?
But it is for public streets and sidewalks unless appropriately signed.
We don't have a budget for signage.
Do you want skateboards on Hillsborough Street?
I think we want skateboards where bicycles are allowed.
That's for you.
I would like to hear from the chief about that, if you don't mind.
I would, as far as skateboards and roller skates, if we have the appropriate lanes like bike lanes, I can kind of see that. I'm a little leery of Hillsborough Street or any other street, out in, I think it's different with bicycles, versus somebody on a skateboard, roller skating. So that was, I'd be a little leery about that. Like I say, if you got the bike lanes, then, they can use that because that's what that intent and purpose is, but, like I said, I would be leery about making it to where if we could do, they could do it on streets. I just worry about safety and things like that.
So let's say a young person lives in my neighborhood, Chatham Forest. How would they get to the skate park? Because we don't currently have painted bike lanes. I believe from my neighborhood to Pittsboro Elementary School or Flanagan Street.
Right. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess it depends on what their preferred transportation method is.
Well, if they're 12 and their parents aren't able to drive them in the car, it seems overly restrictive to me. And I'd really love it if we could take a look at some other municipalities that have dealt with these questions. Perhaps there's language that can be discovered and considered that would, anytime that there is a pedestrian on the sidewalk, it is prohibited. But barring, if the sidewalk is empty, then ride the skateboard on it or something like that. Let me just stick to the high level. I hope that we can continue to incentivize and encourage people to use non-motor modes of transportation. And I think that's vital.
I do too, but children, they are very careless. And I do not want anybody's child hit by a car because they're on the road, they're on a skateboard. That would just be devastating. So I can't agree that these children who are 12, 14 can be on the sidewalks or on the streets unless it is a bicycle lane. Because children are just children and they think a car hit them that they'll be all right. But a lot of times they won't be. So that would be my definite concern.
Yeah, if the language is too vague, then you're putting a lot of discretionary weight on the police department's shoulders, especially if you have incidents where they have to respond. I'd be a little fearful of what.
Well, I'm not proposing vague language. I'm suggesting surely there's some municipality out there that's figured.
Oh, sure. But I mean, if you were to say something along, if the sidewalk is clear, I mean, that if is vague in itself. Because I just think
There
about.
could be a difference between a sidewalk and a street. You don't have to do both. We don't have that many sidewalks in the first place, and some of them are not in really great shape either. But you're contemplating a skateboarder from Chatham Forest skateboarding to the park. That would be stretch, I think, but there's no sidewalk that would be.
Yeah.
Right.
My kids and I biked it Saturday.
Bike's different,
Yeah.
big wheels.
And brakes.
Yeah.
Wheels.
Would you all like us to revisit Article 3? Just take a gander at other things?
I'm not interested in you revisiting it. I don't know what the other commissioners think, and the mayor.
And how much of this is, so I think this is driven by insurance in a large part, like how much of this is affecting us passing this is affecting the insurance review of the skate park to open it?
I don't think,
Article 2 is skate park, that's it.
Article 3 is not associated with the skate park insurance. Oh. Trying to anticipate future possible issues.
Sure.
It's a resurrection of issues that have come up to the town before. When skateboarding was more popular, in fact, when they started doing it, talking about the park. But no action was ever taken. So this is my suggestion that if you're doing the park, you might as well do skateboarding in town as well. Whether it's this or something like it, that's up to you.
I guess with the way this is written, they would be allowed on multi-purpose paths or whatever we're calling them these days. Okay. Multi-use paths
Multi-use.
and greenways, I'd imagine. Yeah, okay.
Yes, greenways, because everything is 8, 12 feet for that. That's why we have that, because, you know, when you have just your regular sidewalks, right? No bikes or vehicles or things like that are on the sidewalks, but if it's a multi-use path, there's enough room to be able to safely go around people.
That makes sense.
Jonathan, where are you finding that?
Multi-use paths aren't in here. So which led me to believe that we're okay with folks using these different types of modes of transportation on.
Okay, so by virtue of its omission.
Yes, so it would be allowed on multi-use paths and greenways. Just gotta build more green.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I'll just go along with Pam on her, I feel like we built the park for skateboards. And I'd rather see them there than in the Food Line parking lot or trying to run the rails somewhere else that's on a side of a street or somewhere that's not safety or could cause accidents, cars or anything like that. So I'm pretty comfortable with it as it is here.
I think a bicycle in the street is one thing because we've all ridden a bike and some of us have ridden a skateboard. But I feel like more of a target on a skateboard than I do on a bike. I feel like I can get right out of the way a lot quicker on a bicycle. But that's just me. I don't know.
There's no brakes on a skateboard.
I think there's discretionary aspect to all of it as well, that if it's a safe operation, then yeah, it's gonna be okay.
So I would agree.
And I mean, I think the goal is to have options in cases of unsafe operation.
Still discussing.
If, I'd just like to make a motion to adopt the sections as wrote here for the code of ordinance.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Foley? Any additional discussion?
Yeah, again, I think that it's overly prohibitive. Article 3, if I had a line item veto, I would vote in favor of all of the above except Article 3 and ask that further work be done to make that a little bit clearer and less prohibitive. Yeah, we've got a lot of neighborhood streets in town with very little traffic on them, and to prohibit skateboarding in the cul-de-sacs of Chatham Forest is not constructive. I think it goes against the desire to have a skate park. Slippery slope. Commissioner Foley, I heard you say it's a slippery slope. I think, you know, we ask staff to look at other ordinances and come back with something that's a little bit more, I'm not going to say permissive, but a little more cognizant of skateboarding as a valid mode of transportation.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
This is something we can revisit also a year from now. If we see problems, we can amend.
I think you have to vote. I don't think you can, or you have to have a reason to abstain that we would have to vote on. Is that correct?
I think any commissioner has the option of abstaining by remaining silent, and I was being assertively abstentious.
Silence indicates consent for the motion.
Understood. Yeah, I've had my say. Thank you.
Okay. Up next is a traffic ordinance amendment. Stop intersections at Pittsboro Elementary School Road. Ken?
Good evening. So we clearly value safety. It's especially sensitive when it's near a school or a public recreation facility. So that is the subject of this ordinance. So to orient you, we're talking about the intersection of Farrell Street and Pittsboro Elementary School Road. We recently, the chief, another officer, and public works director and I visited the site to observe some of the conditions. The primary limitation is the approach from Highway 87. You're all familiar with this location. It really has a challenging sight line as you're proceeding from 87 toward the McClanahan Park, the school, especially immediately as you kind of top that hill and you are immediately at the dugout for the ball field, the parking lot to the school. So opportunities for accidents. So that's this ordinance will make this intersection a all-way stop. So there's currently a stop movement on Farrell Street. You approve this ordinance, there will be a stop condition in both directions on Pittsboro Elementary School Road as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Would this also include stop bar painted on the street?
Yes. And the work would be completed by our public works staff, both the marking and the stop signs.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to Code Ordinance 72 traffic schedules.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Farrell? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Up next is a parking ordinance amendment, chapter 73 parking schedules for Pittsboro Elementary School Road.
Okay, so continuing to discuss this location, at the same time we discussed parking habits, trends in and around the Little League ball field. And the school has a modest amount of off-street parking, but not substantial off-street parking. And what is happening is when there are events, especially at the Little League field, vehicles are parking in both sides of the street in many instances, which creates an impossible sight distance for pedestrians that are moving in between the vehicles, coming to the ball field from a remote parking location, whatever the case might be. So it adds to this theme of safety for this area. to prohibit parking. We discussed, the limits that was really, it's clear that the no parking restriction seems needed. We did discuss the limits. We settled on going, kind of with what we thought was the maximum limit. So having no parking zone on both sides between Farrell Street and I think it's Cotton Street is the other end. So that is the proposal before you to create a prohibited no parking zone on Pittsboro Elementary School Road between Farrell Street and Cotton Street.
Make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to Code Ordinances 73 parking schedules.
Second. Thank you.
Discussion.
Give him a second. Commissioner Vose, thank you. Second by Commissioner Farrell. Discussion?
Yeah, so I've been to quite a few ball games over there and have parked along the Pittsboro Elementary School Road myself. And when it's a good game, there's no parking. I'm not aware of any incidents that have ever happened there. We know that we've had a fatality over on Hillsborough Street, and we'll touch on that in a moment, but yeah, I'd really like us to pause and reconsider this because this is very much a stealing my own thunder situation, but Mr. Jackson, I'm not an expert in parking engineering and road building, obviously, but I am a very hungry and eager consumer of information about new urbanism and about traffic calming because so many issues in my 8 years of service on this board have been about traffic calming and how we can make our communities more walkable and more friendly to pedestrians, safer for pedestrians. And my understanding is the National Association of City Transportation Officials, NACTO, that their guidance and their best practices for traffic calming pedestrian safety is to encourage on-street parking, is to encourage those visual reminders that we're not on a highway, that we already have, I think, 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on that street. I know we do on Hillsborough Street and Sanford Street, excuse me. And removing that on-street parking is going to reduce that kind of cognitive friction. As we're driving down the street and we see cars there, we all instinctively slow down. And if we don't, that's kind of a, I'll just say it's antisocial. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but it's going to encourage faster driving. And this is the new science, is my understanding, and that parked cars act also as a buffer between moving vehicles and pedestrians. Typically, I think that the recommendation for situations like this might be to narrow the travel lanes and preserve curbside parallel parking or other curbside uses. Yeah, those are my concerns.
Okay, with regard to near misses or incidents, I'd defer to the chief for that. I'm not aware either of an incident that has occurred there. Perhaps there's been some close calls. I'm not altogether sure. But one other dimension about this is the one-way nature of Farrell Street and McClanahan Street, which we feel like does offer the opportunity for on-street parking. So we did not extend the limitation to those streets.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that, this is a especially comprehensive analytical proposal. However, I think my first thought in response to your statement is, are those parking situations designed comprehensively with the built environment around them? I don't know, but that's, one of my first thoughts. So anyway, that's just, my thoughts, related, to your statement.
So,
From East Chatham Little League, at least the stop signs were, and then we talked to them about this as well. And one of their board members expressed concern with all of those cars being stacked and then children running through to get to the other side of the street. And you're not able to see running children going through cars, and next thing you know, there's.
It's too late.
And Jimmy Simpson, I believe is his last name, had said there had been some close calls and they fully supported it, even with the parking constraints that this may cause. And our next step, likely in a month or two, as soon as we get some spare staff time, is, I don't know if you all remember the additional piece of property that we got from the county in addition to the ball field. We're gonna go in and rock that and kind of in concert with the school system, have all of that open for parking.
So we'll expand parking.
We'll open that gate up and then we'll rock all that and hopefully fit, I don't know, 50, 60 cars in there.
Are you able to indicate with a cursor somehow where that is?
It's the box just north of the existing parking.
Yeah, you see the existing gravel, it's just north of that. And the East Chatham Little League did all the work themselves to move the outfield fence in about 20 feet. So now there's this nice 20-foot strip where you can walk all the way around the ball field.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna say park, and I was like,
And that's very helpful. That's very helpful, given that, did not know that the Little League leadership were requesting this, that.
Yeah, they pretty much requested both items.
Okay.
This is the school zone.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And so during school hours, obviously the speed limit is reduced. But is it always 20 miles an hour there? Do we know?
Many times I rode by, I think so.
Okay.
That, you ride by enough, it just comes.
Not putting you on the spot, Chief. And 20.
We don't have a street less than 20.
Yeah.
That's true.
And thanks to your actions just a moment ago, you'll have a stop sign
To slow things
about
down.
every 500 feet going down that road.
And both sides of that shoulders are soft.
Yes, sir.
So we have erosion issues also somewhat, if it's wet.
well, thank you, Mr. Franklin. You answered the question that I was going to ask about the alternative parking. So,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Trying to stay as happy.
Thank you.
40-40 bid.
Thank you.
all right, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Up next, we have the two resolutions from Commissioner Foley. So the first one is about PFAS and funding. Commissioner Foley?
Thank you. Thank you for allowing these two resolutions to come with very, very little notice, Mr. Mayor. So both of these resolutions are in response to the executive actions of the President of the United States. And they are addressing what I feel affects the citizens of Pittsboro. One of which is the current change in policy for funding for clean water, PFAS and PFOS, and the other is tariffs. And what I'd like to do is read the resolution for the water quality first. Kind of wordy, and I apologize, but it is also it's also based in what I'll call law. So there's a lot of whereases that legitimize it, and I'll just read it and then we can open it up for discussions. This is the resolution requesting a change in current policy from President Donald J. Trump in the executive branch of the United States government regarding PFAS, PFOS, and the pausing of funds to be dispersed under the bipartisan infrastructure law in the Inflation Reduction Act. Whereas the town of Pittsboro is a historic municipality founded in 1787, located in Chatham County, North Carolina. And whereas the town of Pittsboro operates under Chapter 160A as set forth by the North Carolina General Assembly, whereas the town of Pittsboro is governed by a board of 5 commissioners and a mayor duly elected at large by all citizens of the town of Pittsboro, whereas the town of Pittsboro operates under a council-manager form of government as specified in this charter, and whereas the elected commissioners and mayor take an oath of office as set forth in paragraphs 160A-61, which states that every person elected by the people or appointed to any civic city office shall, before entering upon its duties of that office, take and subscribe the oath of office prescribed in Article 6, subset 7 of the Constitution, which means that the elected commissioners and the mayor take an oath of office to support and maintain the Constitution, laws, state of the United States, and the constitutional laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and whereas President Donald J. Trump issued an executive order on January 20th, 2025 to freeze any federal regulations pending review, and said memorandum is to be implemented consistent with the applicable law. And whereas an effect of an executive order on January 20th, document number 2025-01906, published on January 28th, 2025, to freeze any new federal regulations pending review was to curtail former President Joe Biden's environmental policies, including but not limited to the plan to set limits on toxic PFAS chemicals in industrial wastewater. And whereas Executive Order 14154, issued in March by President Donald J. Trump, pauses disbursements of funds from the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, while agencies review whether the programs align with the administration's energy and economic policy goals, which is in effect a funding freeze for previously committed funds to municipalities, counties, states across the country. And whereas many communities understand that PFAS contamination is a national health crisis, and the effect of the aforesaid executive orders will force states to try to fill the regulatory void left by the EPA's failure to regulate. And whereas PFAS, which stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a family of chemicals that have been used in a wide variety of everyday products worldwide since the 50s, from nonstick pans, dental floss, waterproof clothing, carpets resistance to stains, firefighting foam, and makeup to sweat-resistant apparel and fast food packaging. And whereas PFAS were known as forever chemicals, and they can spend hundreds of or thousands of years in the environment before breaking down. And according to the USGS, these substances can be found in at least 45% of Americans' tap water. And a report by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, using this data, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, found PFAS in the blood of 90% of Americans. And whereas in 2024, the EPA designated these 2 well-studied types of PFAS, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, PFOS, and perfluorooctanic acid, That was a tough one. As hazardous substances under Superfund laws and announced the first legally enforceable limits for these 4 types of PFAS in drinking water. Whereas PFAS is a class of thousands of complex human-made chemicals widely contaminate the U.S. water sources, food, packaging, and household dust. And whereas the town of Pittsboro and its citizens and businesses have a well-documented history in dealing with contaminated drinking water from PFAS and discharges upstream on the Haw River. Whereas the town of Pittsboro filed lawsuits against more than 20 companies, including Chemours, DuPont, and 3M, for allegedly polluting its water supply, PFAS. And whereas the lawsuit claimed that the aforementioned companies produced and improperly disposed of PFAS despite knowing it, would result in pollution of the Haw River watershed and the town's drinking water, and whereas the safety of drinking water and the quality of life and the present and future prospects of the citizens and businesses of our Pittsboro, Chatham County, North Carolina, are affected by these changes in U.S. environmental policy, including but not limited to the freezing or canceling of federal funds allocated for PFAS cleanup in municipal and county water systems, delays in removing forever chemicals from drinking water, the potential of gutting both federal and state regulations on PFAS by altering the method that the Environmental Protection Agency utilizes for chemical risk evaluations, excluding a large number of consumer products from being considered for risk management, and preventing and/or precluding state and local governments from limiting PFAS in the drinking water and the environment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Pittsboro respectfully requests that the 14-member United States congressional delegation from North Carolina and its 2-member U.S. Senate delegation support legislation and/or action that would free up previously committed funds to address PFAS and PFOS found in our drinking water, county municipal systems in North Carolina, to revisit directives aimed at the EPA that will limit and/or alter the method the EPA utilizes for chemical risk evaluations. Further, let it be resolved that the town of Pittsboro respectfully requests that President Donald J. Trump modify and/or rescind his memorandums, executive orders freezing regarding the freeze on federal regulations related to forever chemicals such as PFAS and PFOS. The pause on the disbursement of funds from bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, and begin working collaboratively with the United States Congress on its environmental policy, funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. That's a lot of whereases. But this is a request, a resolution to ask the federal government to release the funds that they promised us to keep our water safe. And open up the floor for discussion. If there's any. I would love just to notify from the ground up the folks that need to be voting and stepping forward and making sure that our water is safe, and not bending a knee to the President of the United States on an executive order. That's what this resolution is. And I put it forward for a vote and/or discussion.
I just have one correction before discussion. The town clerk's name is spelled incorrectly. We'll fix that.
Terribly sorry.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Commissioner Foley, I very much appreciate this. I think it was short-sighted, to say the least, of the president to interrupt policymaking that was so far down the road. And so I'm in support of the general thrust of your resolution. No qualms or quibbles with the final two resolves statements. I would love it if you would be open to a friendly amendment or further work on this. We could include an additional whereas statement that emphasizes that because of our granular activated carbon filter, PFAS and PFOS in particular are being removed. And so the end result for the town of Pittsboro's water drinkers and ratepayers is that something to the effect that the administration's actions are actually going to deter us from decreasing costs in future. Because hypothetically, if PFAS and PFOS were removed at the source, then we wouldn't have to change out our GAC filter as often. That's the bottom line. I mean, we've got a really good filter. It's protecting us. We could cite our data sets. We now have 2.5 years worth of data showing the actual reductions of a whole variety of perfluoro and polyfluoro compounds. And that's a very small request for a change, but I think it's important because reading this through otherwise, we're left with the idea that the safety of town water drinkers is immediately impacted by his resolution or his executive action. Water. And we're not, we're insulated, but we're very fortunate. We're the only community in this part of the state that has this high level of filtration.
So if you'd like to add something to this, a whereas, not a whereas, but
It would be a whereas clause.
furthermore, or a whereas.
Okay, yeah.
So a whereas added to the end before the furthermore that says, whereas the town of Pittsboro the town of Pittsboro, help me out, John, because Mr. Bonitz, the town of Pittsboro, exactly what you want. The town of Pittsboro currently operates a granular activated charcoal system that effectively removes these forever chemicals. But we are then impacted by the cost of the current executive order by the President of the United States. I'm okay with adding that.
Yeah, I would suggest that it simply be just before your last whereas statement, because it's a statement of fact. And that's where the whereas statements go is statements of fact. So appreciate your openness to that, but I'm very eager to hear other commissioners' thoughts.
Can we add that without, how do we go about adding that sentence?
Yeah, you just agree on what the added sentence would say, and then when you pass if you pass it, you just say, motion to approve with the added language.
All of this is being presented now for approval, so any modifications would be part of the approval, just like any operation.
Thank you.
If y'all want something wordsmith, Colby can work something up.
For staff, does the town of Pittsboro have funds that are frozen with the bipartisan infrastructure or inflation reduction?
We have some funds that are frozen, but I don't know specifically where they lay. But certainly are.
Not necessarily of water quality, but other.
In general, we do. The circulator route, although that money is going through Chatham Transit, that is part of the money that was frozen, from my understanding. And we think that our raise grant is also kind of out there in the tundra.
But the grants that we received and then through the merger passed along to Sanford, none of those have been compromised.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think those were state funds that already had been received and dispersed. So,
You know, the other concern too, is that the EPA, first of all, let me add that you've been designated on the board, right, for the EPA for the region, or what's your official title with that? Advisory?
yeah, so I'm on the Small Communities Advisory Subcommittee to the EPA's Local Government Advisory Council.
Okay, that's very good. You could do that. Whereas. Thank you, Jay.
Get business cards with that on it. It is.
I think it's important for us as a town, especially since we have gone through so much in the last 5-10 years, getting our drinking water up to date.
I couldn't agree more.
And this is a formal request. It's not making anybody do anything, but we're asking the federal government to reconsider with withholding funding to the EPA and also for the infrastructure bill. That's all this is. So I'd love to hear some feedback about that. Any other comments?
John, I would just like to say, thank you. You hit the nail on the head because that's exactly what I was referring to. That, you know, Pittsburgh, we spent $3.4 million on getting this GAC system in. And we also had a model with a firm out of Burlington for 1.4 dioxane. So we have done above and beyond to get our citizens clean water and quality water. This is wordy. This is did you write this?
It's designed in a way so
Need
that
another job.
the legislature will read it. You know, that's what.
Yeah, I mean, it's very
that's how they
wordy and a
speak.
little confusing at the least, so.
I understand.
But
Definitely, we need to stand up against the
Thank you, Pam.
executive order, but this is a little wordy and we probably need to condense it. But our representatives needs to know that we are not in favor of them destroying what they were going to give to grant the city, county, or the state in reference to trying to eliminate or reduce PFAS and PFOS.
Yeah, thank you. It's wordy, I think, for the powers that be that write law above us.
Yeah. They may not read it though, because it's so wordy.
Thank you for the input.
Is this time sensitive?
I'd like to get a vote tonight. Truly would.
So if it's not, we'd be happy to.
The other resolution is about tariffs, and that is enormously time sensitive.
I agree.
Tariffs are,
I agree.
I like to take it to a vote so that we can move forward with it. I know it's wordy, but it also covers the bases that need to be covered. It covers the funding, it covers who's affected, it covers our powers as a municipality, what our powers are, what our responsibilities are. It covers the description of PFAS and PFOS and where that came from. It talks about forever chemicals. Those are very important things to put in here so it's clear to the legislature that we mean business here in Pittsboro.
So do we need a motion or a second? Was his presentation, was that a motion or?
I move that we accept this resolution with the one stipulated sentence that Commissioner Bonitz recommended put on there.
Okay.
We restate what that.
Yes, I really dislike word crafting in public session. However, out of deference to your request and willingness to receive a friendly amendment, I would propose that just before the final whereas statement, an additional whereas statement be inserted. I'm really reluctant to wordsmith it. May I deliver the thrust of it and
I'll help you with it.
Staff elaborate the whereas clause? Thank you. So the thrust of it needs to be to acknowledge that the town of Pittsboro already has superior drinking water quality because of all of the extensive expenditures and efforts that we've been through for the past 8 years. And given that, this executive action, we acknowledge that this executive action doesn't immediately impact the health and safety of our residents. However, in the long-term ownership of that filter, costs will be increased given
The executive order.
pollution in the river, and the executive order is not going to help us get that pollution out.
That's good wordsmithing.
You add the part about specifically what Pittsboro has done. The gap
I'm open to
system.
that,
Yeah, the gap
absolutely.
system
Yes,
and-
I'm
yeah.
supposing staff will
Yeah.
do that, be explicit
Yes.
about that.
Specifically
Yeah.
add that.
Thank you.
Jay actually said it.
Is this, are we suggesting like for staff to bring this back on the next consent or to like pass a resolution that then staff creates the wording for later? I don't know what we're allowed to do, honestly.
Yeah, Commissioner Foley, I'm.
Can we pass
very-
this without that amendment? Knowing that Pittsboro has made an incredible effort. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this and also very reluctant to do this wordsmithing in public. It's a principled stand that I've taken almost every single time we've tried to do
Understand.
it.
So let me ask you this. Would it be possible to pass this referendum without that addition?
I don't think I can support it, honestly, because then it perpetuates this myth. And I want to take some time here to say on the public record that I'm very concerned that this myth perpetuates, that there are people in our community who say our water is bad and polluted. And the end result is that it harms our local businesses. It doesn't harm property values because there's still people stacked up who want to move here. But what it does is it makes housing more expensive, because every person who wants to buy a house in this town thinks coming in that they're going to have to pay another $5,000 to $6,000 for a whole house filter. And it's flat out, it's a myth. And it really upsets me because I know people who can't afford that. I know folks who can't afford a house as it is, and that there's anybody in this town who persists with this misunderstanding. It really upsets me.
All right, so getting back to this resolution.
Why is it so important to have it tonight?
Yeah.
I don't,
You got some language for you.
Yeah, I think we can get this done with staff's help at our very next meeting. And I think you see emerging a consensus here.
Okay.
You're willing to.
I'm definitely.
Their proposed language now?
I think I've surmised.
That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, you're willing.
Whereas if you want.
Hear it.
As a final, whereas the town of Pittsboro has invested significant resources in technology such as granular activated carbon filtration to provide clean and safe drinking water to our residents, and cost to maintain the resource will only be increased by a failure to stop the entry of PFAS into the watershed. And whereas the loss of regulation stopping PFAS from entering the watershed will significantly impact those in other communities.
Very good.
Now therefore be it.
Brilliant. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Thank you, Colby.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colby. If we added that
Yes.
that language. All right, then I move ratification of this resolution regarding water quality in the EPA and its effect on the town of Pittsboro. I guess I should read the.
You read the whole thing again?
I second that.
Thank you.
With staff's additional whereas clause.
Thank you. Put it to a vote.
Moved.
Yes. Any additional discussion? Do you have? I thought you were, okay.
I just want to make sure the motion
question.
Yeah, sure.
was clear. That's all I was, just to make sure that. Good, okay.
Okay. So
One thing, Mr. Mayor,
It's on, it was motion by Commissioner Foley, second by Commissioner Bonitz, correct, right? And then as amended and discussion.
with this, policy,
It's a resolution. Yeah.
it's, I guess what I'm trying to say, is it gonna reduce any funding for the future, or is this just a one-time?
Well, we're asking the Congress, actually, this is right now, rescind the executive order stopping money flowing for PFAS EPA.
But were we getting any? Are we getting any money? We paid our way.
EPA does.
We paid our way.
And we paid our way.
We paid our way. So we don't have any plans for,
Well,
any
what,
federally funded money?
Not with regards to PFOS and PFOA.
But there are other monies being held back.
and you think about, you know, the EPA is all about, I think it was just recently that the 1,4-dioxane hazardous limits were set by the EPA. And I really don't think that's going to be happening anymore with the way this executive order is. I fear that the EPA is just going to shrivel up and die. And this is our way of asking the president to reconsider it. Funding for that. That's what this is pretty much about. I know we paid our way and we did a great job. And thank you for the additional statement. I know it's wordy, Jay. But it's just our way of asking the president to turn the tap back on, you know, protect us. That's what this is about. Public safety.
I agree 100% with you.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, we did our part.
We did.
We did ours. And I'm proud to say that we have quality water, and unfortunately, that word is not gotten out properly.
Okay, any other discussion?
I still think it's a little too wordy.
You have suggestions, you want to take time?
Maybe go sentence by sentence. So,
Promise you the next one's not wordy at all.
So,
some of these figures that are in here, like this one here, it says PFAS is found in the blood of 97% of Americans. I mean, is that
Site
actually
services, yeah.
taken from documentation? That's a very high percentage.
45% of all drinking water is that way. According to the EPA.
Probably 90% of Americans have either used dental floss or eaten off of a wrapper at McDonald's or used a Teflon skillet. And that's how it's getting into us.
Wear a raincoat.
Yep.
It's just a way to,
Yeah, I still think it's too wordy because I think your point could be made without putting some of this in here. But it's whatever the commissioners decide to do.
We ready to vote? Yes. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
well, unfortunately say nay, because I'm not sure if this is direction we need to go.
Motion passes. Up next is the next resolution about tariffs. Commissioner Foley?
The tariffs are executive orders right now. It's usually done through the United States Congress. And our president has emergency powers right now to issue tariffs, which haven't really been done in a long time. So I'll read the resolution and then we can talk. Whereas, and I promise this is much shorter. Whereas the town of Pittsboro is a historic municipality founded in 1787 and located in Chatham County, North Carolina. And whereas the town of Pittsboro operates under same chapters 160A as set forth by the General Assembly, North Carolina General Assembly. Whereas the town of Pittsboro is governed by a board of 5 commissioners and a mayor duly elected at large by all citizens of the town of Pittsboro. And whereas the town of Pittsboro operates under a council/manager form of government as specified in its charter. Whereas the elected commissioners and mayor take the oath of office as set forth in 160A-61, which states that every person elected by the people or appointed to any city office shall, before entering upon the duties of that office, take and subscribe to the oath of the office prescribed in Article 6 and 7 of the Constitution, which means that the elected commissioners and mayor take an oath of office to support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith. And President Donald J. Trump, whereas President Donald J. Trump has declared a national economic emergency via executive order in order to act on his own accord to impose tariffs without investigation by Congress under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which is an act that allows the president to declare an emergency under National Emergency Act. And whereas the quality of life and present future prospects of the citizens and businesses of Pittsboro and Chatham County are affected by the U.S. trade policy and tariffs, including, but not limited to, the rising cost of goods, new barriers to exporting goods, wild swings in the stock market, weakening bond market for U.S. treasuries, and a weakening U.S. dollar. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Pittsboro respectfully requests that the 14-member United States congressional delegation from North Carolina and its 2-member U.S. Senate delegation support legislation to return tariff authority and its oversight to its rightful place under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which states that the Congress shall have the power to lay, collect taxes, duties, imposts, imports, and excises, but all duties, imposts, excises, and shall be uniform throughout the United States. Further, let it be resolved that the town of Pittsboro respectfully requests that President Donald J. Trump modify and or rescind his executive order regarding tariffs and begin collaboratively working with the U.S. Congress on U.S. trade policy and policy for tariffs adopted this day, 14 April 2025. What really concerns me, what stuck really, I see our developers and the town growing, and I see the cost of lumber going up because of tariffs to Canada. And the cost of housing is already so incredibly high. These tariffs will affect our town specifically. Tariffs for goods imported from China, things like HVAC component parts, will raise the cost of a house to incredible proportions. We can't get the screws and bolts because there are tariffs from another country. We can't find enough roofing materials or nails. We can't get it goes on and on. That's why I felt it was important that we speak up as a town, as town commissioners, to a point where we're not changing the world, we're just speaking up. That's what this is about. This is a resolution to speak up and say, this affects us specifically. We have a group of entrepreneurs that will be coming up next, patiently waiting to come up next. And they're, I'm sure, afraid of tariffs. Any business in the United States right now is slowing down and stopping considering building new because of tariffs. And this is our way of just saying, hey, listen, we are being affected. We need an opportunity to say so. I'll open it up to discussion. It was shorter.
Quite as wordy.
Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Foley, it's not very often that an issue gets broad expressions of concern from parties as diverse as Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Jamie Dimon, the famous Wall Street tycoon. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, famous libertarian. These tariffs are a mistake. They're hurting the country. They're hurting our individual pocketbooks. And I strongly support this.
Thank you. My concern is for our constituents. We have reevaluations for our houses or for our homes. Oh my gosh. We already have tariffs. We already know we're going to be paying more for everything. And it's going to affect our budget. So that's another thing that we need to consider. So this does not affect anything but our request to reconsider the tariffs. And it's more of a gesture than it is. Doesn't have any weight to it, but it certainly does start the conversation on a local level. So I move that this resolution be considered to vote. I don't know how I say that.
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Commissioner Foley, second.
Seconded.
Commissioner Vose, any other discussion?
You know I was gonna say something.
Come on.
Certainly the tariffs are detrimental, to say the least. And a statement does need to be made about how detrimental it is. Now, asking all of those members of Congress to support that, and these two members of the Senate to support what we're saying. But anyway,
We can always ask.
well, that's
That's all we're doing.
asking. It's not as long as the other.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Up next is a report on Sanford Road pedestrian safety improvements. Kent?
Thank you, Mayor. If our meetings had a theme, I think tonight's might be the one about safety.
Amen.
So obviously, this corridor between the traffic circle and Chatham, West Chatham, is a high priority, has been and was especially emphasized after the incident last year. But we've been working on a number of improvements. Earlier in the meeting, it was discussed about the post and chain system that was recently installed. We're glad to get that installed. Look forward to the benefits that will bring. Another focus area has been on the west side of Sanford Road, along the frontage of the ABC store, Doherty's, Mod, and on up through Havoc. We recently met on site to examine this location, discuss, what improvements we might do there to enhance safety. As you're all aware, what happens now is a lot of on-street parking happens there, which is very important. We know, especially for downtown, that parking is critical and paramount to their success. So we certainly don't take this lightly, but in balancing the pedestrian safety, we have come up with a few recommendations for this area. So in place of the current on-street parking, we are proposing to incorporate a couple of loading zones and a right turn lane onto Chatham Street. And you can see those not real clearly, but in the image here on the screen, starting up at the landscape median near the Mod, there would be a loading zone, which, would serve just that function for deliveries to the businesses, to the restaurants. We also discussed, the need for areas for delivery services, so forth. So that might happen in this loading zone. Immediately south of that would be a no parking zone across the primary frontage of the Mod, the other side, and across the driveway adjacent to Doherty's. We have incorporated another loading zone between the driveways at Doherty's and the ABC store to allow for another loading zone, because we felt like one would not be sufficient. Followed by another no parking zone. And then we would get into the proposed right turn lane onto Chatham Street as a way to utilize that additional width that extends through this area. We prepared this in collaboration with police, public works. We had a field meeting recently, as I described. We were fortunate to run into one business owner operator while we were there that seemed enthusiastic for these type of improvements. We also spoke, the manager and the police chief also spoke that day with the ABC store manager, who I think also welcomed some safety enhancements. So we feel like we have incorporated input from the businesses in this corridor, and we think this will, is a good balance, the best balance that we can project for pedestrian safety and respecting the needs of the businesses. So we have shared this with NCDOT. They responded favorably to all of the elements except one. We had proposed a rapid flash beacon system at the intersection of Sanford and Chatham Street. They have asked that we defer that until the additional street lights are installed to, be able to see what the impact of that will be. So, but all the other improvements I discussed would be permitted by NCDOT.
So is there a request to reassess that when the streetlights are installed, or to just wait until the streetlights are installed?
Reassess.
What's the time frame on these streetlights?
So we continue to try to get updates. The last update we received, Pike Duke Energy received approval of their application to NCDOT for the installation in the right of way, which was welcome news time-wise. Pike had estimated 4 to 6 months for that approval, which seems approval. grossly out of scale, but the approval came back in a matter of weeks. So currently, Pike is working internally to schedule the installation of the lights. And
You have the
I
lights?
reached out today, but I wasn't able to get a response before this evening, so.
We have the lights. We have the lights. I mean, we're
The
just waiting on
equipment?
installation.
The lights are, it's a package.
Okay.
They, in other words, they will schedule the installation to coincide with the anticipated, arrival time of the fixtures.
I'll just say generally, I appreciate all the effort the staff has done to do what we can and work with DOT and put these in here. And I see a lot fewer people crossing there and, some of the comments from other people, just, we try and do everything we can to guide people to the crosswalks and, people are still gonna do what they want. But, I think there's really good improvements. And, I think also the more people that cross at the crosswalks, the more people are inclined to stop and notice that. And, so I think it's a good thing all around. Appreciate the efforts done here.
Yeah, I think the enhanced landscaping that the manager worked with some local folks to do back in January timeframe has helped as an additional deterrent as well. So.
Any other questions for Ken? Thank you.
Yeah, I do have more questions. So, Mr. Jackson, once again, going back, my understanding of the newest engineering based on the science about traffic calming and pedestrian safety is again that actually adding things like on-street parking in an area that's clearly a slow speed zone. This is 20 miles per hour, correct? And that in those cases, the engineering that does everything it can to present more visual clutter on the sides of the street is what causes drivers psychologically to refrain themselves from speeding. And that whether that's street trees or bump outs or more parking or diagonal nose-in parking instead of parallel parking, that these are the kinds of things we need to do to really compel the driver to slow down. That it's the engineering additions that remove those visual obstructions or friction, as NACTO language suggests or describes it. That's what encourages the faster driving. That's what encourages the unsafe driving. And I think personally that we're going the wrong way with this direction. It's understandable because this is what we're all taught, that removing cars is going to remove something that people could hide behind and jump out and jaywalk. Making it a clearer path of vision is going to be safer. But my understanding of the science is that that's not correct, that actually it feels counterintuitive, but that adding things to this area would make it safer. If we could perhaps, instead of having just no parking zones, have Jersey walls or large planters with trees in them, or I don't think we need to go for anything very expensive. Speaking briefly with Manager Franklin, the suggestion was, if we had many tens of thousands or $100,000s of dollars that we could bump out the sidewalk and have additional seating. I've seen in bigger cities where they do very simple things. They just put up wooden obstacles. They're not even concrete Jersey walls. And in a 20 mile per hour zone, that should be sufficient. I also got to confess that I am very concerned to hear that NCDOT is trying to tell us to slow down and reconsider or defer the flashing beacon. I mean, I think we already persuaded philanthropic donors to pay for beacons. So those are essentially in hand. And if DOT is not willing to cooperate with us on that, I mean, if this community feels that signals or signalized crossings or beacons is necessary, and that's hue and cry. I hear it all the time from people. When are we going to get some blinking lights down there? I think that kind of addition will slow traffic. The idea of adding a turn lane, I'll elaborate. What that's going to do is that's going to also increase speed of through traffic because anybody who's making a turn there, a right-hand turn at the ABC store onto
Southbound.
Chatham Street. Yeah, anybody who's coming southbound and wanting to turn next to the ABC store, turning onto Chatham Street, that makes way for the people who are behind them to drive faster. Plus it's downhill. So you've got all these impediments to drive faster that is really counter to what we're trying to do here, which is to slow people down. Now, maybe I just need to hold my breath and wait a couple or 3 years when the bypass is completed, and then we'll revisit this and make the whole area feel less like a highway. But I'm afraid that that's what we're going about here, is making it feel more like a highway when we really need to resist those temptations. It's not a highway. We should assert that it's not a highway. It is a local downtown street, and we need to be really, really emphatic that vehicle drivers need to appreciate that pedestrians will be there. And there's a restaurant, for goodness sake, and alcohol being served. So, you know, maybe another thing is we just pause on this particular proposal and do something like what we already did on the other side of the street, which I'm trying to remember the exact wording of the paint on the sidewalk. What did staff do with the paint on the sidewalk?
It just says use crosswalk
Use crosswalk.
with an arrow.
So let's use a similar font and similar size wording to paint. Don't jaywalk. And see how that results. See what works. See what that does.
Well, I mean, certainly this, this is a discussion item. As I said, we, somewhat thoughtfully put these recommendations together. I think, there's some inherent limitations in this area. And probably the most basic one is, for speaking for myself, I'm not clear of the original intended purpose for that additional width. I mean, it is used and has, for some time been used as parking. It's not clear what the intention was for there. Was it for alternative, transportation modes? I'm not altogether sure. So that's a built-in limitation that we're working with. If you'll recall last year, I think probably immediately after the accident, we reached out to NCDOT about a mid-block crosswalk. And that, was not a proposal they were comfortable with in this location. So there are, inherent limitations that we are working with. Your points are well received.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And how much of DOT's influence is based on that being 15501 versus being Sanford Road? So in other words, when DOT actually moves 15501, do they still have the same influence over Sanford Road?
Yeah, they haven't clarified, and we honestly haven't asked them to clarify, but we certainly can ask them clarification.
I imagine that's part of it.
And as I think about it, I wonder if even after 15501 is on a bypass, if they might resist, and at some point in the future, we might have to ask that they give up that section, and in which case we would have to take on, the town would have to take on ownership and maintenance of streets in downtown. Or
Thought that was happening with the redesignation anyway.
We're not taking it on as a street, like
Yeah, I don't
it's
think
literally
so.
a highway now.
Yeah.
it would remain.
But the highway designation is coming off of it, but it's still a DOT road. So they'll maintain it next to that.
But then we have a different set of restrictions that we
Potentially.
currently have potentially.
Yeah.
Once that designation is moved, you could probably ask DOT to give you the road and they'd probably give it to you.
And then we would be taking on all the costs of maintenance, repaving and.
But it might also change how they feel about the flashing beacons and things like that. It's not a designated highway.
Probably. Mhm.
And we will go back and push on the flashing beacons. We'll continue to redress that with them. But that, is an
We
initial.
have to get approval for the crosswalk at the north, up near Midway Street.
We did,
Any other?
You have to get DOT.
I know.
we did, and they willingly worked with us on that one, however, it was an existing marked crosswalk, so I think that's the difference.
Well, I'm just thinking about this right now, but we have 3 lanes, pretty much is what you're saying, across, right in front of the mall, right? We have a parking lane and we have 2 north and south lanes. One, and a turn. So I'm just spitballing, but what if we, to take Commissioner Bonnett's idea, use the southbound lane or the right now, what you're proposing to be an unloading. Maybe that's the southbound lane. And then we just move the parking area westward. So you still have 2 lanes and it would go like that. That would slow your traffic down immensely. You see what I'm saying? You actually consume the northbound lane and make it part of the parking area.
Oh,
It goes like this.
Yeah, you would have issue with your southbound traffic though, because then they would be going head on to traffic parked in front of the pizza restaurant on the next block. You'd have a really,
It'd be like this when it,
it would slow down traffic, but I Shorty would be responding to some car wrecks more frequently than it's not.
okay, that's probably not a good idea.
That's why this was a discussion item, because we've been hearing you all and your concerns with this area, so we've been trying to find new and different ways to approach this.
Yep.
That DOT can agree to.
Okay, so I think, with this, good feedback, staff will huddle and consider what our best path forward is.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Up next is a presentation from SUPA.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is LaTanya Brown. I am the owner of SUPA Athletics and also the track club that we just started at Seaforth High School. I'm also a Chatham County resident. I've been here since 2017, and I have 2 children that have been involved in Chatham County schools. One of the reasons why this actually became an idea was because I was driving my daughter to Durham every day for 3 days a week to Durham, North Carolina for track practice. As you know, there is no local, well now it is, but there was no local track club in Chatham County for her to participate. Her name is Amber Brown, and she is a 3-time All-American. And she is very, very good. And so we were driving her to Durham to practice. and basically spending a lot of time there. I spoke with a lot of other parents in the neighborhood or in the community that have children who are athletic, and they found that they were driving outside of Chatham County to provide athletic services for their children. So we came up with the idea to provide a Plex facility in Chatham County that would be beneficial to Pittsboro, North Carolina. One of the things, middle school does not offer a track in the county at all. So that will be one benefit. We've also spoke with the assistant superintendent, Blythe, to consider partnering with partnering with the Sportsplex to provide a middle school track teams for all of Chatham County schools. We also talked about with the builder, the lead builder, Quincy Brown. He is the lead designer and developer of SUPA Sportsplex. And this building would be a facility that would seek LEED Platinum certification. And he could talk to you a little bit about that. This also would be a sales and tax hotel revenue from huge weekend tournaments that could be used to increase county budgets. This also would be a community solar program that would help underprivileged households lower the energy bill, which are rising. And again, the lead developer could talk to you about how that can happen with the building. I have members of the board here with me today, but I also have community members two of the young ladies they left out, it probably was cold, they're on the track team. I just wanted to just let you know that we have 26 members of the track team already, and 35 of them are sponsored. And I also have been working with another county resident, John Halsclaw, on our capital funding raise to raise community funding. And John, you could speak a little bit more to that. And also Greg Madu. He's here, he's as my advisor. So they can answer questions as well. In the meantime, Quincy has brought up the PowerPoint. You all have had an opportunity to look at that before we presented today, but there's also a YouTube. Okay, we can't show it, but there is a YouTube of the building that we have already put together for you guys to see what it would look like.
Can you email that to us later?
Yes, we definitely get that email to you later. So, Greg and John, will you please come up? Oh, and while they're coming up, I wanted to let you know that I also have reached out to Congresswoman Foushee, Valerie Foushee, and she has given me a verbal support to providing this in the community. We will have a letter, and I can email that to you as well. I've also received a letter of support from Sharice Powell. Everybody knows Drake Powell. She lives in my neighborhood, and I spoke to her about this, and she wrote me a letter, and I can email that to you as well, along with our newly UNC basketball player, Jaron Stevenson. He's also wrote a letter of support as well.
That's some good, you got some news we hadn't heard.
Thanks for me, right? I know he was transferring. He's in the portal.
He's
Okay.
transferred to UNC.
Okay, wow. Okay. Good evening, commissioners and Mayor Pro Tem. My name is John Holtzclaw. I run a community development financial institution based in Arlington, Virginia, but I'm very proud to live here in Chatham County, so I'm up and back a lot. I'm also the proud parent of a graduating senior at Seaforth High School here, coming up soon. He's played football for the last 2 years. My involvement with this, when the team called me, was to do all that I could to use my many years of philanthropic outreach and capital raising to to make this a very community focused, yet at the same time, grant and philanthropic funded effort. Again, we feel and we've seen other case studies and models across the country where, 90 to 98% of these facilities, which many of which are not as efficient and built in a modular fashion, is what's been designed here, were paid for by the community, be it sponsorships, be it the philanthropic world. And so we're in the process now of working on messaging, our pitch deck, starting with community foundations, regional foundations, and branching out there. And so again, we're here obviously tonight pitching the idea, but not pitching the fact that we're trying to or expect the town or the county to pay for this. And again, I'm only signing up as a concerned citizen and someone that happens to have a level of expertise that can really help the team. And so thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'll turn it back over to Tanya after hearing that news about Stevenson.
Yes, spoke with his mom today. Greg?
I sat there for too long.
Our fault.
Too much
Whereas.
Thank you. I'm Greg Gordeau. I'm not a Chatham County resident. I'm an Orange County resident. I live in Chapel Hill. My company is Matador Advisors, and my partners and I advise businesses that have innovative entrepreneurs and business people that want to scale and build a business to success. And we use an exclusive formula to do that. I will tell you as a matter of fact that LaTanya meets every single criteria. Her husband meets every single criteria. So you're getting a double check mark on all the criteria that we use to find innovative entrepreneurs that want to build a successful business to success. I can answer a lot of questions about that, but I can only tell you that my recommendation is that you listen to them and not me. I will also tell you that what they have in mind is a dramatic nationwide need. 93% of all school districts want what they're proposing. 93%. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your taking the time to listen to that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
I also have with me today Tobias Palmer. Can you please come up?
Been a Chatham County resident, went to school here, played ball in Northwood, raised here my whole entire life. But like this is a great opportunity, only for, for someone like myself who went through it, but to also be able to help and instill some of the things that not only I took from sports, but instill inside the community to these kids who want to, seek and, go to higher levels and just be great at things that they want to do in life. Sports is, I guess, a life lesson. So for me, I've taken, quite a heavy dose of road that I had to get to where I want to get to be successful. And so I just wanted to, say that what they're doing, trying to present, it's a great opportunity. It's a great thing for these kids and just to be able to pour back into the community.
Before you step away, Mr. Palmer, can you describe your professional experience in athletics?
So I played in the NFL for 6.5 years. Fortunate enough to, to play at the highest level. Not many people can say that they actually did that. It's a very small percentage of people that can ever make it to that level. And so just me being one that could, help lead the way, but also help pour inside, other individuals that want to be, successful in life.
You went to Northwood?
Sure did.
And how did that shape your life?
I guess I wanted to pave a pathway for others to know that it's possible, with hard work, sacrifice, it's possible.
And what What makes you think SUPA is the right idea?
Right, I do because it brings not only, it just brings a lot more to the community. You know, Pittsboro, we haven't had much, you know, and so now that it's growing, I feel like it's time. It's time to, you know, turn that corner to be able to pour in the community more, but also bring more to Pittsboro.
I also have Charles Williams here. I'm gonna let him speak with Quincy, the lead developer, because he's an engineer, with GBA. But before they speak, I want to introduce Shamelia Godfrey. She, is also a resident of Chatham County.
Good evening. I just want to say that, you know, I fully support this organization. What it's doing for the opportunity for youth is groundbreaking, life-changing. I have 3 children, a part of the Chatham County schools, that is ranging from the elementary school all the way to Seaforth, and they're all involved in sports. And so having to travel outside of Chatham County 5 days a week for multiple sports, it would just be a great opportunity to see it here in this community. So I have to be a part of that. Thank you all.
Now, if you have any questions for me, I'll take them, but I would also like for you to speak with Quincy Brown, the lead developer of SUPA Youth Sportsplex, because that is the reason why this makes this so great. The development of this building is amazing.
I'm just gonna go ahead and assume you guys have looked at the presentation already. I'm Quincy Brown, I'm the owner of Eco Living. We have for the past 7 years been in this community, not just a resident, but a small business. Unfortunately, most of the work that I've done is outside the community because towns like Orange County have really embraced green technology and the use of it inside of their buildings, not just residentially, but commercially. So one of the things that is unique about this design is that we would be seeking a LEED Platinum certification. Right now, we're pointing between gold and platinum, but Pittsboro would have the first LEED Platinum or gold certified youth sports facility in America. And that's a documented research thing. There are none that are currently in existence. This facility will have each one. If you go down to like a few slides in, we could just pull up the site map or one of the pictures of the facility. You just keep clicking down. The modular design of the facility allows SUPA to build out slowly. They could start with just Field House 1 if they wanted to, or they could, depending on how their investment goes, build all 4 facilities. Yeah, right here is good. All 4 facilities at the same time, all 4 field houses, as well as the connectors. There are 4,000 solar panels on top of each facility. Each facility is 128,000 square feet. Each facility generates roughly 1.5 megawatts of clean energy every day. That is enough to power about 140 to 160 homes every day. And when you times that by 4, now you have enough energy to basically power a small community. And that is exactly what SUPA is trying to do. They want to be able to not just have 35% of their kids be sponsored, meaning they don't pay any registration fees. They don't pay anything for any sport that they ever play at SUPA, but they also want to be able to help them with their energy bills by allowing them to come in and get involved in their community solar program, which we will be running for SUPA. The community solar program will allow Duke to credit these homes on their energy bills so that they can pay less on their energy bill and more into their kids' education, more into their kids' sports, more into the things that matter. All of us have to pay energy. This is our way of presenting SUPA with an option that anyone could leverage. No matter how big your house is, no matter whether you live in an apartment, wherever you live, you pay an energy bill. And this is SUPA's way of saying we can help them with the cost of an everyday item that they have to pay, right? So our design out of many was the one that was chosen. We have a number of different things that that you guys can see in the virtual walkthrough that I'll send to, I'm sorry, what was your name? She gave me the card, Bailey, Miss Bailey. I'll send the virtual walkthrough to you guys so you can see both the outside and inside the facility. We've been working with Brian Thompson and Katie Kinlan at the Chatham County level to talk about ways that we can help them with their cost in terms of like clean energy production. If you can look and see on the left side and the right side of the parking lots, working with the USDA in North Carolina, we are receiving a grant for all of the solar. And that grant through Bill 2 will allow us to offer Chatham County fleet charging of their hopefully converted Chatham County Chatham transit buses. We presented a proposal to them to say if you convert those to EVs, because SUPA believes that they need to help these kids get to the facility. And one of the ways to do that is to leverage Chatham Transit. We will allow Chatham Transit to charge those fleet vehicles at SUPA's facilities. So they'll be charging them with clean energy. They'll get it at a reduced rate. And it allows Chatham to not have to build that infrastructure, which saves them on CapEx cost. We've also talked to Superintendent Blyce, or Assistant Superintendent Blyce. And what Greg was speaking to is really a broader picture of helping counties not have to worry about the CapEx cost of building facilities around their schools. This is what we want, is a public-private partnership that allows Chatham County schools to program into these facilities. So you guys don't have to keep building these facilities. SUPA will build them and allow your school systems to use them. The CapEx cost is going up and up. It's through the roof. I can tell you alone, just from as a contractor, as a developer, I've been taking calls from the vendors, and every call is about an increase in cost. Steel has gone up 3 times since we started this project, and school systems won't be able to keep up. You just can't keep up with the CapEx costs. What we're proposing is we can build these facilities throughout the county, not just here in Pittsboro, but throughout the county, and allow your school systems to program in, and you turn, Chatham County likes it because they turn the CapEx costs into OpEx by just paying SUPA a reduced rate to program their schools into those facilities. Now, the schools that are way out in the other part of the county come to Pittsboro, they practice, they play in an indoor facility that's world-class. And it's a way for the whole Chatham One thing to actually be realized, because you don't have to worry about spending $40 million to build something that SUPA can build at a much less cost, and they can monetize it and get the money back, whereas you guys never get it back, right? The CapEx cost is just gone. There's no way for you to monetize these facilities, whereas they have the ways to do it. So that is what we're doing from a development perspective. There's a lot more in the presentation around all of the green technology that we're putting into facilities. Fieldhouse 1 is the first and only banked indoor track in the state of North Carolina. You guys will have the first and only. That will allow you to attract not just regional tournaments, but national tournaments. Duke and NCCU, I believe you guys have been speaking to about having their college teams come here and practice, because they don't even have indoor bank tracks at their facilities, right? The second field house to your left is 9 basketball courts that split into 18 volleyball courts. That will be one of the largest in the state. That will allow you to bring in your Nike EYBLs. Right now, you guys don't have enough hotels to do that, but you can still bring the tournaments in. But you would be an epicenter for volleyball, basketball, some of the other sports that you can put into that facility. And then the other 2 that I think SUPA has been really adamant about us building are the indoor turf fields. They just have a different approach. Not that they don't like outdoor sports. It's just that they don't like the unpredictability of playing sports outdoors. They also don't like the inherent safety issues that come with playing sports outdoors, whether it's heat, exhaustion, or, you know, other things that happen. They believe that their facilities will be more utilized if they're indoors.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Mr. Brown. So looking at the screen, the upper left-hand corner, that image, there it looks like there's a parking space in the middle, and then you have 4 buildings. Is that correct?
No. So that building in the middle is what we call the connector. That is your tech hub. So that building you walk into to get to the other.
That's the white part.
That white, yes.
But aren't there 4 buildings there plus a building on the side, the lower right-hand corner? You have an outdoor stadium on the lower right-hand corner of that image.
Yeah, the arena.
And you have 4 separate buildings.
Separate field houses, and the 2 field houses are, each group of field houses are connected by this, what we call the connector.
And you mentioned something about doing this, you could do it piecewise, correct?
Yes.
So the 4 buildings, we wouldn't really see immediately, correct?
It depends on how they budget out
Their finances.
Yeah, so technically, the way that we designed it, field house 1 is what they would start with, which is the indoor track. They could just ask us to build that and open it without anything else being built yet.
When you say they, who do you mean?
SUPA.
SUPA.
Yeah, that was my mandate for my design team, was to say, if they only had X amount of dollars, could they just open 1 building? If they end up getting an investor or however they do their funds, to say we have the whole budget, then we just build all 4 buildings and the connectors. Okay. So
Is SUPA a nonprofit or a for-profit?
So, SUPA Athletics is for-profit, but I also have SUPA Cares, it's a nonprofit, it's a 501c3.
Okay, but which one is building, or a partnership, or?
So we're building, SUPA Athletics is building it, but I also have a 501c3 that helps with the funding, and helping get the funding under the 501c3 for the SUPA Athletics.
Can we talk about funding for a minute?
Another question first, just on this slide. This slide says it's located in the center of Chatham Park, but next to the Ag Center.
So that was just an idea.
Okay.
Idea.
And this is an old version of this, but I mean, when we first got the site plan, it was for right down here, but that ended up being owned by Mr. Holmes. And that didn't work out. We ended up going in with Mr. Franklin to talk about different locations. And the location that we've been discussing is the parks. The 50 acres that you guys have as parks.
Oh, the town's property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
It's from Moncure Road.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Foley?
Yes, sir. I was speaking with the county commissioner, and that commissioner stated that a middle school gymnasium right now is about $18 million. So how would you fund this? And because I'm assuming that we're talking a lot more than an 18 million, plus we have solar on top.
So that's me.
That's
okay. Yeah, that's me. So yeah, so yeah, so a lot of what you see in the cost of construction right now is profiteering, which is going to be honest. Okay, meaning that as a developer, my only way to monetize this project is to charge as much as I can to build. Eco Living doesn't need to do that. We are more interested in monetizing clean energy because our company can benefit from that for hundreds of years. As long as this facility is up and running, it will generate revenue from clean energy. Meaning I've been able to reduce the cost of construction through partnerships that we've developed with vendors. The fact that this is 4 facilities and not just a one-off, the fact that this is actually, and I'm speaking a little bit into your business model that I've seen, and this is going into a little bit of Greg's stuff, but you guys aren't the only company or county that we're doing this with. This is a, I would say, a national movement. There's multiple facilities like this going in multiple states. And SUPA has the ability to be able to scale. Because they can scale, we can take less because we know there's not just one of these, there's several of them. So we just have a different model, right? So for instance, the way that we built this, you're looking at, and I specifically got this for you, Mr. Shipp, because I know you're an engineering guy. So I can pass this to you afterwards. This is the actual engineering, the MEP for the first facility. But it does give you a little bit of our secret sauce, right? For instance, when we started to talk to Train about the HVAC, right? We end up going with Arizona Building Systems because they have an HVAC system that is not only more energy efficient, but it is a air rotation system that is 1/4 of the cost of what Train quoted us to cool and heat this facility, right? The structure itself is essentially a warehouse. It's a 128,000 square foot clear span structure. Any prefab company that's worth their salt in this business can make that for you. So what we ended up doing was we just bid it out to multiple prefab structure companies, and they all started coming in with very aggressive quotes because they all want the rest of these facilities, as well as the ones that are going in other states. So we have leverage and power that a local municipality doesn't have because SUPA has scale. And when they talk to vendors, they talk to them at that scale of not just building this facility, but several others. So that's where normally this would, and these aren't really that expensive anyway. I mean, like I said, it's a prefab structure with, solar panels that are getting granted out by the USDA. I mean, there's ways that we reduce the cost, but these are not expensive to build. Where you're actually saving a lot of the money is really the partnerships that they've created with companies like Bonitz Sports. They do 80% of the outdoor and indoor tracks in this country. And they are building a strong partnership with SUPA because they want to do business with SUPA. And hence they drive the price down. Okay. So some of this is us as a green technology company, but some of it is just SUPA being who they are and being able to leverage some of those relationships.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, SUPA sounds like a fantastic idea. But I still need to know about, so do you have funding to actually build this right now? And the only thing you're looking for is a location?
It's actually the opposite. You can't get the funding until you get the location. And that's what Town Manager Franklin and I have been working on with SUPA for a while now. You have to have the location to get the funding. Now that we have that proposal from Mr. Franklin, it was the other part of it is in order to get funding philanthropically, you need to have the town support where you're putting this in. That's usually done through a resolution. So the proposal from Mr. Franklin, along with
Just a second, what is the proposal from Mr. Franklin?
that's the 50 acres of parkland.
It was the 18 acres that is along Monaco Pittsboro Road on the north side of the creek. That is as far as we got.
Is 18 acres enough?
It's enough for the first 2 buildings, yes. Okay. The first 2 field houses.
The first 2 field houses and parking?
And parking. Okay. As you see it on the screen, that's 14 acres. Each half is 14 acres.
How does SUPA change Pittsboro's economic landscape, and what is the ask from the town of SUPA or of the town from SUPA?
Yeah, so in the proposal, you see the economic impact is roughly $30 million a year in economic impact. You're talking about your average volleyball tournament that they could host because the first facility, the Fieldhouse 1, the track is convertible. It drops down. You can bring hardwood courts over it. You could host, they could host 150 teams. You're talking about, 3,000-4,000 people.
Restaurants and hotels.
Yes, in this area, for a volleyball tournament, which I believe you guys have already started to put the feelers out there. They were talking to, what's the guy in Virginia, a tournament director in Virginia, and he said as soon as you break ground, he would bring 4 tournaments into this facility, per year, just to start. I think you guys were at a track meet when you, So the demand is there, but the economic impact is huge because all of your businesses during those tournaments would be packed, your restaurants would be packed, you won't have it in hotels, but I mean. Yeah.
And we've also spoke to a lot of the business owners in Pittsboro. We've talked to them. I think Mayor Shipp, you've received some letters of support from some of the business.
I haven't actually, I got the email that said that I did, but I haven't actually got them. So if you have them.
Yeah,
Yes, we have.
Yeah. And we brought him into the meeting that's what happened. The meeting we had with him, you were actually supposed to, with John Franklin, but he showed some of the letters in there. Yeah. So did I answer your question? Yeah. So 30 million economic impact.
And what is the ask? What are you asking us for?
Yeah, so the 2 things that from a developer's perspective, that are important are obviously solidifying the land, what that looks like. I believe you guys have engaged Parker Poe to negotiate that. And they're actually working with Chatham County as well. And the second thing is really this resolution just to say that you guys support this public-private partnership. That resolution gets put up to Chatham at their level. We'll continue to work with Ketty Kinlan. We'll continue to work with town manager, Brian Thompson, Chatham County manager. I'm in daily discussions with him back and forth via email. They are ready to support Pittsboro in this. We just have to work on, because obviously we're not looking for anything financial from Pittsboro. We're looking for municipality support, meaning like things that you guys can do and control, helping with like parking, utilities, things like that.
Wasn't there some previous discussion with the county possibly coming up with the land? Is that still on the table?
We went into meetings about it, but nothing has been solidified. In my opinion, I think the opportunity lies with Pittsboro.
Okay.
If
It's disappointing.
yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity for Pittsboro.
It's not.
I mean,
It's a delay opportunity for Pittsboro made available.
So are you saying then that SUPA would purchase the town's land from the town? If you're not asking for like a financial commitment?
No, that is your financial commitment.
Giving the land that we own. Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at the case studies, Swing NC in Raleigh, for instance, they did a 99-year lease on some land that they had in Briar Creek and allowed Swing NC, they're building it right now, their $120 million paddle tennis facility, right? That's how these things get done. The municipality gives the land, the sports club or whoever it is comes in, and with that actual, whether it's a donation or a long-term lease, they're able to build. It's important for them to have that because they really can't go to whoever they're going to go to and say, give us $5 million for this or that, or without having, first thing they ask is, where's it gonna be? Right. And then the second thing they ask, and the banks have already asked us this in those meetings that I've been in, is, well, what's the town doing to help?
So basically, just tell me about what the school system has indicated. Did they indicate that if you all build this, that they will be utilizing that?
I have an email from Superintendent Blythe to say, once you guys get it getting ready to build, let me know, because we definitely want to partner with you.
You forward that also?
That'd be good to see.
Yes, I will.
Mr. Brown, I'm curious about I don't want to put you on the spot about your business model, but it sounds like you were giving some hints that this resembles what I call community solar.
Yes.
because there is the opportunity for community members who live far from the facility to participate legally in the program. And how would that be? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so the model that we presented to SUPA is because they'll have a database of families and kids that they are already on scholarship with, right? So like I said, I think you said 35% of your kids in the track team are on scholarship. That's actually showing a financial need, right? That family can't pay for the track club, so they're getting scholarship to participate. I believe you guys have a policy of not turning away anyone, regardless of what the income is. I tell them that as this is what we do, right? We can take that database, understand what the demographics are, and present that family with an option to buy into community solar, which would be cheaper than what they spend for their energy with Duke. It would save them, roughly $50 a month, $60 a month, $70 a month on their power bill. But that $70 for a family that couldn't even afford for their kid to play sports is a big deal.
Can you just touch on the fact that once a family pays, they can do as many sports as they want within programming? I don't think that's
Right.
It's important.
The membership is a yearly membership, and then, right now, like not to knock Parks and Rec, but you have to pay for every sport. So once you're a member of SUPA, you can play volleyball, you can play basketball, you can run track, you can, do pickleball, you can learn how to do all these sports. And it's not for the Tobias, it's not just for the fancy, players. This is for everyone in the community. And I also want to just mention that this is not only for just athletics. I am working with NCCU, and I'm also working with UNC. They're both on my board. They're professors there. We'll be doing internships from the colleges to come in and teach students how to run the facility, how to do journalism, marketing, those types of things. So there'll be a lot of other options at SUPA Athletics, not just sports and playing games. It'll be a whole lot of other opportunities for students to come in and learn. I also want to make sure that we have mental health aspects on campus to help with people who are athletes, like Tobias Farmer, to make sure that they're not in a place of mental distress. So I'm a public health educator by trade. And so this is not just for the sports and athletics and to make a lot of money. This is for the children in the community.
I think that's important with what we just saw the 24-year-old do. Apparently that looks like it was a suicide. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Kid that was about to go to the draft and committed suicide. That's a mental health thing. To be that close to making millions of dollars, but still feel like your life is not worth living for that. But so there's a lot more facets to what they're doing.
Can you talk a little bit about, you have two, building one and building two, and you have a central portal where there's some, talk about security.
So, so that was another mandate that was really difficult for us to push through from a design perspective, but we ended up working it out. So how the facility works is the only entrance to get into the facility besides emergency exits is through the middle, what we call the connector. So parents are able to walk their kids into the connector, see the front desk and check them in, right? Let them go with their coaches. But that provides a level of security for those kids because once they're in the facility, there aren't any other adults besides staff in the facility. You're not there to be able to watch your kid practice, or you can when you have a tournament and play. But for the day-to-day kind of operations, your kids are in a secure and safe environment. They're either in field house 1 doing track and field or whatever, or they're in field house 2 doing basketball, but they're not outside at some random, again, forget the terminology, but at some open park where someone could just walk up and talk to your kid. So the connector is 2 stories. The lower level is a pavilion behind the check-in desk where they have shops. I think you guys are gonna have
Fitness center.
Yeah, the fitness center upstairs, classrooms upstairs. There's a lot of stuff that we're putting into the facility around virtual training. VR,
Cafeteria?
Yeah.
Cafeteria
Yeah,
and
that's
pavilion.
the pavilion's downstairs where the cafeteria is at. So that two-story connector there is really a hub. There's even a media center upstairs where they've asked us to put in viewing boxes into the field houses so that kids could come in and learn how to do broadcasting and announcing for games. They're able to go upstairs into those facilities, and when they have a high school basketball game, there's a kid that probably loves to play sports, probably not as gifted as a Jaron Stevenson or someone else, right? And they didn't make maybe they want to get into sports journalism or sports casting. They have opportunities upstairs in the connector where they can look at the games and do announcing and broadcasting and live streaming of those games. So it's a lot more than just sports, like the physical aspects of sports. It's also the other things that surround it that'll be in there.
I have a question. This is directed to Mr. Franklin and Mr. Jackson. The property that we're talking about, that 18 acres, can you talk about the soil? Is this possible?
I don't
Do you know?
at this point. It was the only land that we have with a large enough acreage for them to get started that the town doesn't have, I don't want to say a purpose for at the moment, but we don't have a purpose or a plan for it that we can afford.
No program.
I think that land was donated for a baseball complex, and from Katie and I's look at it, as well as a consultant that we've hired to do the planning for that, their initial look at it was that's not going to work.
It's not going to work because of the topography?
Right, yes, sir. Okay. To have a proper, and y'all will get a briefing on this at the June meeting, so we have enough time to put everything together for what a baseball complex will look like. But to have a proper baseball facility that you're going to get large tournaments, it's not going to work for that. You could possibly get it to work, but the amount of money you have to spend on
moving dirt
would probably not make it financially.
That's a hindrance to.
Yeah, it's a hindrance. I mean, so we've been at the Chatham level, we've been at the school district level, trying to find a home for this facility. I think what's being kind of lost a little bit in this is these facilities change the economic landscape of your community dramatically. There's no other facility that you could build that will bring regional people into your community for any other reason. Like the fact that you don't have enough hotels here and parents could care less about that. They'll just go skate and carry or wherever because their kid has a tournament at their facility and they're going to get them to that facility. That's the vigor that is behind youth sports at this moment. It is recession proof. The pandemic showed us that. Youth sports never slowed down. And it's come out of the pandemic, and all of our research that we've done before we got involved in this project showed that these facilities they just change the economic landscape. The track alone, you will have every AD in Raleigh, Apex, Holly Springs programming into your facility for their high school meets because there is no indoor track other than Winston-Salem, and there is no indoor banked track in the state of North Carolina. So now you're bringing kids and parents from your other surrounding counties into your county, and what they'll do is they'll compete and then they'll go to a local restaurant and eat.
They'll spend money here.
And that's what
it's the
we're doing.
exact
That's what
opposite
we're
of what-
doing now.
Yes,
We're
right.
competing in other counties and doing other things in other counties and spending money in other counties, eating dinner in other counties. So that's what I did for the last 3 years with my daughter.
I'd like to understand just a little bit better what I'm seeing on the screen. The numbers on the small line diagram are hard to make out, but the very clear schematic image at the top left. What is the I&I arena again?
No. It's just a concept. It is an opportunity that I presented to SUPA. There is a tremendous amount of vigor around building an arena for indoor sports that will allow you to bring in some of the more growing and popular sports and even at some point host a team. So one of the things that we talked about with this location is that Tanya had the great idea of saying, what if once we build this, we go to CCCC and ask them to spin up all of their JUCO sports in our facilities?
Other what sports?
All of their junior college sports. There's no way for CCC to pay for facilities like this. They just don't have the money. But JUCO sports are huge now, especially since the NCAA redid the mandate where you don't lose any eligibility going to a JUCO to play sports now. You can still play 4 years of college at the D1, D2, D3 level, even if you went to two years of JUCO. Well, one of the things that would help that is to have an arena where you could actually bring in actual bigger, more college types of tournaments.
Arena like football?
No.
Basketball.
Yeah, like basketball. Yeah, like basketball. Another thing that professional volleyball is getting big now. There are other sports that Pittsboro could look at bringing in a professional team if you build that. It's not your major sports, but it's your, like right now, the Professional Volleyball League is about 10 cities. They're looking to go to 16. You could put a bid in if you build something like that, right? Like there's things like that we talked about. That's way down the line.
That's like phase 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's
phase 5.
Right.
All right. Well, it's aspirational, and I admire that. We do have a unique opportunity in Pittsboro because we're going to be 80 to 100,000 people.
Exactly.
And we get to hopefully influence and design the whole thing from greenfield. But yeah, the earthwork question is a major question. And I think we've just got to think it through, and I think we need more answers on it. The other question that I have is a little bit more about the energy, and I have some familiarity with the LEED protocol, and it was 25 years ago. So a lot's changed since then, but at that time, and my understanding is even just 10 years ago, when I was keeping track of it, the platinum certification is really challenging.
Yes.
And so tell me how it is that first of all, how is it that there aren't any other athletic facilities that don't already have either a gold or platinum designation? And then secondly, how would you imagine your facility achieving that?
Yeah, absolutely. Simple answer is builders and developers are cheap. They want to do the most inexpensive thing to make the maximum amount of profit. Again, Eco Living doesn't have to make a ton of money building this facility because we're looking at the 100-year view of generating 5 megawatts of clean energy for all 4 of these facilities. Sending that to Duke is way more profitable than the one-off of charging X amount of dollars to build this and then we're out. Right? As a developer, when you build a community, you build it and you're done. You're out. We are partnering with SUPA for the long haul. As long as this facility is open, we have a designated stake in it. And that's because of the clean energy that's being generated. So that's one of the things that, is obviously a big consideration. But yeah, I mean, the land piece is something that we have to work on. I just wanted to say to Mr. Franklin, the conversations I've had with Brian Thompson, they actually said that if we have a resolution through Pittsboro and Pittsboro needed our help, we'd give it to him. Meaning, if the land isn't adequate, there's land that they own right behind this building. There's land that they own right down the street. They own a lot of land, right? Now, how that would work in terms of like Pittsboro, I don't know the politics of that, right? I really would like it to be here in Pittsboro. But Chatham wants to help, but they want to see that you guys want to help, which is why we were advised to do the resolution here first. We have these very same meetings coming up with Chatham at the county level as well.
So are you saying that Brian Thompson offered land if we offer a resolution?
He's saying he wants to help. Meaning, explore this option. If it's not doable, they have options. Right?
Okay, I just want.
And they were, Brian Thompson was at the same meeting that we had with Siler, because they want stuff too, and he said the same exact thing. Siler, let us know what you need and we'll help, because we want this Chatham, this one Chatham thing, this is how you get there. The entire county, all of the schools come to this facility to sport. Like the schools don't have to make those hard decisions of saying like, we don't have the space for that program. Yes, you do. You have SUPA, right? So if my gym can't hold it, I'll send it to SUPA, we'll program in. That's at the county level, right? Because the county picks up that tab for you guys.
And if we're partnering with them, you know, like I said, talking to Superintendent Blythe, partnering with them with different programs in the area would be, it would create a one Chatham atmosphere for all of the Chatham County schools.
I just want to be real clear about who we're saying is doing what when they're not here.
Yeah.
And you're talking about staff or like Mr. Franklin, but like has the school board supported this or the Chatham County board, or at least the discussion?
So this hasn't been brought in front of the board or, you know, I spoke with Superintendent Blythe about maybe using some of the Chatham County Schools land, and that didn't work. That didn't go the way, you know, that didn't work out. So.
I'm not splitting hairs by any means. Blaze is not the superintendent. And when we say it that way, when people repeat it back, the people that repeat it back look foolish.
So
I'm
not the-
saying-
yeah, not so the assistant.
Just be careful. Yeah.
Assistant superintendent, Blythe, spoke with him about the land option, utilizing Chatham County Schools land.
That wasn't.
That wasn't an option.
We're still looking for land.
We're still looking for.
Okay, all right, that's where we are.
But Mr. Franklin did say that there was land option, the 18 acres of land.
And I don't know what that means. I mean, we'd have to get our GC to go out there and look. Because building outdoor fields is different than building what we're building. Right? Like one of the key things that's good about this design is you can make this work in a lot of places where if you had to do outdoor fields this size, you have to do a lot to make it all work out. We're just trying to drop 128,000 square foot pad. That's basically what we're doing, right? And from a development perspective, that's actually not as hard as trying to get land for a massive soccer and baseball fields, you know, where everything has to be completely flat.
Can you speak to that?
Right. So we don't know that area doesn't work for us. It may not have worked for the soccer, for the baseball fields, because baseball fields are massive and you need a lot of flat land. We just need 128,000 square foot pad.
So Charles is an engineer and he builds hospitals for a living. So he may be able to speak to utilizing that land.
What was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just asking about the viability of the land. They had some issues with topography, right? For the baseball fields being built there, but just the differences between building those and what we would do in building.
I think, excuse me, I'm Charles Williams. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs. I'm a capital asset manager for Business 7, which is South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. I build hospitals for them. And I think the difference with the baseball field versus something like this is the return on investment, really. I mean, if you are building a baseball field and you got to do a whole lot of dirt moving, the dirt move is going to cost way more than what you're going to make out of it. With this building bringing in the money that they're talking about, I think it's negligible right at this point. So, you know, I think moving dirt may cost $100,000 if it's really bad. I don't know how bad the soil is in that area, but I don't think it's something that would deter this project from starting.
We are using the Daniel Company as the GC, and they built your YMCA.
Got one question. If the town donated this land, which I guess we would have to see how legal that is, correct?
Donating it to a for-profit company would make it interesting. And you probably have to use some type of economic development incentive through the general statutes. What I had proposed to Mr. Brown was a front-end kind of, let's say a back-end loaded lease where we would come up with a reasonable lease price per acre per year over a 10 to 20-year term, likely some midpoint break so we'd assess their performance. So the front end would be very low cost to them, and then the back end, we would make up that funding. That would not
You answer my second question pretty much.
that would not be a gift, that would be a lease.
Got it. Okay.
With the other business cases that we show in the presentation here, because SUPA does have SUPA cares, they have a 501c3. You could donate it to the 501c3. That is a way that we've seen these get done. What is the YOW Ranch or something like that? In Casper, Wyoming, yep, they built a $36 million sports facility for youth just like this. Obviously not teched out like this one is. And they spent a lot more money, but the land was given to them by the town of Casper to the nonprofit. The nonprofit doesn't, it's a legal way to do it. The nonprofit doesn't have to pay taxes on it. And it's their show of support for the facility being built. And it opened, I believe, this year. It is wildly successful so far.
And your membership or fee, is that family fee or individual athlete? And what would it be?
It could be for a family. Right now most of the programming is for children, so it'll be for children, but as we grow, we'll probably try to, because right now, most of the adults are not, it's youth sports, right?
Right.
So it's mostly for the children. It may be an opportunity for the parent to work out while the child is in the gym or to get a massage or something like that. But for the most part, it's for children.
And what is the fee, introduction fee for the children?
$95 per month. It's cheaper than, I believe, anything else that's out there. I think the new YMCA is more than that. Difference being that $95 a month covers any sport. The kid could play basketball and then move into volleyball. They don't pay per sport.
And we can keep that membership low because of hosting tournaments and things like that. That's what's really going to be the moneymaker. It's not the memberships of being a part of the SUPA athletics.
Can you talk about, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
When you have tournaments, you explain tournaments, are these just tournaments with SUPA?
No.
The organization, like if one in wherever you said another, is it just in between these or?
No, sir. Those tournaments will be, we could, like we said, we have a letter of intent with other tournament directors. They can bring their tournaments to this area and utilize our facility. So SUPA athletics will have tournaments, specialized tournaments. We'll have different camps and things like that we will use our facilities for, but people will come in our area and have tournaments here.
That would just be an increased revenue, correct?
And increased revenue, absolutely.
Speaking of revenue, can you talk about sponsorships?
Yeah, so we've reached out to several organizations. For an example, if you see the two buildings here, they're large enough to hold a name or like what do you call it?
Naming rights.
Naming rights. So one building could be hypothetically a UNC SUPA athletic sports facility. The other one could be, I know we're bringing Hendrix in here. It could be a Hendrix youth sports facility. So for those naming rights, we could use those as sponsor opportunities to bring in revenue as well.
So, full disclosure, because it's in the presentation, the sponsorship packages for naming rights are individual for each building. The naming rights are $350,000 a year. And the preliminary talks with corporations haven't blinked an eye on that because they understand the traffic that's going to come into these facilities. They know the numbers. They know the eyeballs that'll be on their brand. And they want these types of partnerships with these organizations.
And there's also opportunity to create revenue in the pavilion. So there will be restaurants in the pavilion. So we'll have businesses coming in to support the eatery during our tournaments and things like that. So there's another opportunity for revenue as well.
I get a sense.
The restaurants are gonna be on site here?
In the connector.
I get a sense that you're talking to the county and you're talking to us at the same time. That's true. Is there a way that we can be pulling the same direction at the same time? Is there a way that we can get the county and the town together so that we have a consistent pull so that? Yeah. I'd love to see the superintendent and the county commissioners sit down, not all together, of course, but in a meeting so that the town can see what is committed by the county and vice versa. That's the way to go. That strengthens your case. I love the idea that you have here, but the messaging it has to be consistent between the county and the town. That's where I sense there's a need for improvement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we started this at the local level, and did not.
Pittsboro.
Yeah, in Pittsboro. I mean, we were going door to door, business to business, asking if this was built, would it help your business? Would you want to see a tournament here on the weekends that sells out your restaurant, right? The overwhelming response was yes. We also asked for the underprivileged communities, are you having trouble paying for sports? The answer was yes. We can't keep up. We can't afford $4,000 for a volleyball private club, right? Like we don't have those types of funds. No shade to Parks and Rec, great program. SUPA on their track program, they have professionals. These are current professionals who run track professionally that are teaching these kids at SUPA how to perform. It's just a different, it's just a different way to approach it. So we started at the local level and wanted to get support here. By the time we got to Chatham, Chatham, Chatham's thinking about Chatham, which is why they asked us to go to Silent City and do a presentation for them. And now they're asking about other facilities out west. We're just trying to get something going here, right? And Chatham has to worry about Chatham. But they did say, get the local support. They're saying a resolution gets to their level when it starts here, and they will step in and do what they can do. So that's why we're here first. We didn't schedule the Chatham County meeting first. We scheduled this meeting first. Because we want to be at the local level saying, let's get this done here. And then move it to that level. And we have good support there. Like I said, Katie Kinlan has been with us from the beginning, back in January. She's been a champion of this. Our talks about getting Chatham Transit involved have been at the Chatham County level, even though you guys have a depot here, right? Those are their buses. And we're going to need them. We're going to get these kids to the facility. So yes, we're talking to them, but this is a local movement. This is going to benefit Pittsboro kids. This is going to benefit the Boys and Girls Club right there in Pittsboro because they don't have facilities. Where do these kids go to participate in activities when the school has something going on and they have one gym? This has 9 basketball courts.
It's a fantastic idea, but we still need to get something firm, just as Commissioner Foley had indicated, from Chatham County. And we will be in contact, of course, with the manager, Chatham County Manager Thompson, because we do need to know what they are thinking. If they said they will help, we don't know what that help means. So we need some clarification in reference to that. And that's what Commissioner Foley had indicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's down to the location though, right? Because if it's located in Pittsboro, They wouldn't necessarily help with like local municipality stuff because that's up to you guys, right? Like roads and parking and that's not at the, it's in your town, it's your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a separation there where they can help is at the school level, right?
I think there's some confusion there too, because if we're talking about economic impact, it absolutely benefits Chatham, probably more than Pittsboro. And then schools would actually be the school district, not the county. So, I mean, I think we got to be really clear about who's doing what and supporting what. And I understand this takes sort of building support at all levels.
Right.
I want to make sure that that support exists at all levels. When we say that it does, I guess, in that it will need to come together at the end of the day.
We're getting on their docket for this very same meeting, right? That email's already in with Brian Thompson to get a schedule on their agenda. Can you guys make that meeting? Or is that not the appropriate, okay, so
Yeah, I was
we're
gonna ask how
just
to-
going by the channels that that everyone's they're saying start local, we're starting local, right? We have this very same meeting coming up with Chatham County. I mean, it's to present the same thing. Yeah.
Acknowledging that there's a big difference between a covered facility and building a slab on uncertain terrain and geology. There's a big difference between that and a finished earthen field with no cover. I get that and I appreciate that. That's something new to me. But my hunch is that probably that earthwork portion is not going to be inconsequential. And so I hope that we might be able to explore either through the use of LiDAR or some other method of understanding the soil and getting an educated evidence-based estimate of what those costs might be at multiple sites, perhaps. It could be that the site off Moncure Road is indeed more expensive than other available sites. From what I have gathered about regional scale athletic facilities, it's absolutely critical that the town and perhaps the county be open to working with the private sector and the philanthropic sector. It takes everybody pulling in the same direction to get these projects done. And I'm very appreciative of the time and effort that you put in and your expertise. I would like to learn a little bit more about the lead process and the projected scoring. And I'm especially curious, of course, about the renewable energy generation. And the idea of having Chatham Transit be able to charge off of the photovoltaic generation. I'm also, I guess I'm encouraged to hear about the nonprofit side of your plans because equity of access is my primary consideration as I hear from staff about various proposals with the private sector to build athletic facilities. And I hear it from a lot of highly informed leaders in the athletic community, different sports, that this really is the crux of the matter, that wealthy club sports can afford to build their own equipment or their own facilities, excuse me. But that leaves out the rest of us. So let's stay in touch. Let's keep talking about this. Really want to learn more. And I very much appreciate your time tonight.
Any other questions?
I think there's one other note on the access and the equity, like if the business model is based largely around tournaments, I think that the time that those tournaments are going to demand can have an impact on like when Pittsboro residents could access the facility as well. If there's tournaments on weekends, then it might not be available. Maybe it's large enough, I don't know, but that's something that I think we'd be really interested to hear about is specifically the times of access and the availability of access. Not just at, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, but Saturday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, it's a very unique model, I think, that they presented. What we told Chatham, when we talked to them, and you guys have talked about programming, is on weekdays, this is a community facility. It's your local clubs, your local community members, and your local schools. That's who's in there on the weekdays. On weekends, facility is big enough to host a tournament, but still keep 2 courts open or 1 court open for local kids to come in and play. Right. Actually, the meeting with Siler, they pushed that even harder. They were willing to just say, like, well, could we budget to make sure that there's a court open? How about seniors? And we showed them, one of the more unique designs of the indoor track is that there's 2 lanes on the outside of the hydraulic track, that even if SUPA has hard court over this, these 2 lanes are always open. That's something that a senior, if they start to go that route, could come in and walk the track on a rainy day or day that's 5 degrees out, right? Those 2 tracks are always open. So that was a mandate that they put on us as a design team to say, what happens when we have to have something else going on here and we don't want to break all that down just to allow somebody to use the track? Well, let's create a 2-lane track out here so that they can always have something on.
Senior citizen that wants to walk in the inclement weather, does that person need to be a member also?
So that's up to that.
I mean, it's a place, it's a, public partnership, right? I mean, and yes, we thrive on our memberships. So, I mean, but if we, I guess, budget that in for the county to say, hey, we want this available, then that's something that we can discuss.
That's, I won't give away all of it.
So, what I see is Pittsboro and Chatham County teaming up. And right now, I don't know the effort, that's where the effort needs to be directed. I think we need to pull both entities together to make it happen. And I think that's the direction to go next. And then obviously making sure that 18 acres on Pittsboro Moncure Road would support a concrete base for your facility.
Would we, Mr. Franklin, be able to send our team out there, the Daniel Company and some people out there to assess it?
I think we'd have to have a preliminary agreement of some
Okay, that's the,
for you all to access the property without some type of, liability coverage on our side. And the further discussion between the town and the county, I know the county doesn't have any land to offer that isn't encumbered. Financing across the board for local governments is tight, especially with a growing community that has a lot of priorities to meet. So are you all on the agenda for Chatham County? Because I have not seen y'all on the agenda for their April meeting.
so we didn't make that one. I believe Mr. Thompson's trying to get us on the next one.
On the May meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I think just want to make sure we're clear about the financing piece. That's not a deal breaker for this facility. Whether or not Chatham or Pittsboro puts in funds is not what we're asking. These facilities get built through a public-private partnership where the land is given to either the 501c3 or the private entity. Once that happens, whether it's through Raleigh's different, right? Raleigh not just gave the land for swing and see, but they gave 10 million too, right? That happens sometimes. Obviously, SUPA's probably not going to turn down money, but they're not specifically saying we need it to get this facility built. They don't. What we need is It's a non-starter for any foundation or any investor to talk to SUPA about building a facility if they don't know where it's gonna be. It's a non-starter. They don't wanna talk. And there's plenty of people that we've done our homework on that want to invest. Because this is what's happening right now. I just read an article for a $65 million facility that's being built in Kentucky. Same exact thing's happening.
Yep.
Massive. And it's popping up all over the place. And again, we're not just talking to here, like we're in other states about this very same model.
Does it have to be a public interaction, or can it be a private individual that donates land? Is there any, what is it that precludes you to say Chatham County or Pittsboro? Or there's no,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a public interaction.
the lease agreement, that type of thing?
We've seen 99-year leases and we've seen just donation. That's what that if you look at all these facilities being built, that's how they do it. It's a 99-year, $1 lease, $1 a year lease. That's our, that's what Raleigh did. That's how they're getting built. Casper did the same thing. There's 7 other case studies in that presentation. They all did the same thing. Rocky Mount was a little different. But Rocky Mount is making a ton of money out of that facility right now. But the difference is people are saying this is a true public-private partnership, meaning they're going to allow your schools to program in. A lot of facilities don't do that because it's more lucrative for them to just bring in the tournaments. Yeah.
So it would also be very helpful to receive an ask. And it's been unclear what you all want from the town. And certainly I think the county probably shares in that sentiment. I think earlier it was asked how much this is going to cost and we didn't hear an answer. So we don't know what it's going to cost. We don't truly know how much land that you need. A lot of these would be very helpful in terms of like a pro forma or something that we can look at and put numbers on paper. Otherwise, if the town were to consider to give land, we have no idea how this is going to take place or materialize. And then we potentially would have 15 or 18 acres tied up in a 20-year lease just sitting there. And obviously there'd be some performance measures you have to meet. But the town can't tie up publicly owned land for a private venture without more information than just some design plans.
Yeah, I mean, we can disclose any of that at this point, right? I mean, we have, I think you guys have the pro forma stuff. John was prepared to present that, the 3-year pro forma for the facility. That's there. It can be presented. The land, I have exactly what this needs in terms of space. The only requirement is that field house 1 and 2 and the connector stay together. Field house 3 and 4 and that connector can be moved anywhere in the county. The indoor turf fields do not have to be with the hard courts and the track. It's a modular design. You can move them anywhere. So at minimum, we are asking for 14 acres of land to build the first 2 facilities. That's the ask. It would behoove you guys to put it in an area where you could benefit from the traffic. I'm just as a developer, I'm just telling you, what people are gonna do is they're gonna come into your town, they've never been here before, they're gonna put their kid into the sport of whatever's going on, and they're gonna immediately get on their phones and start looking for places to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, for that.
The further and the harder you make that for them, the more SUPA is probably gonna just get business from the pavilion. Just being
From the restaurants and.
they're just
To the restaurants.
gonna choose to just eat right there in the pavilion.
And sorry to be blunt, but in my kind of new urbanist mindset, the thinking of having it out on Moncure Road, I think provides less of that dynamic than if it were, if the county could even contemplate a slight change to their program for the land surrounding this facility, because then most of the traffic is going to go through town rather than just hop out on Pittsboro Moncure Road to go to Route 1 and back to Raleigh, back to Apex.
We did, full disclosure, we did make an ask for the land in front of,
Northwood. What did they say?
the school had other
Well, we
plans.
didn't get to the, to James' point, we didn't get to the person who makes that decision. Mr. Jackson, or Dr. Jackson,
Dr.
I'm sorry.
Jackson.
I think the school board is who would make that decision.
Yes, that's who we did.
Just raise your hand real quick. I will oppose that.
Right, a lot of people, that's the sentiment that we heard.
Yeah.
The original plan was right down here, made a ton of sense, because you have the community college right there. And it's, I know it's not Pittsboro's, but it is in Pittsboro. And the opportunity to spin up JUCO sports for a kid who didn't get any offers, coming out of Northwood, and says, I still want to play the sport. I have to leave the home that I've known for all my life, or whatever amount of time they've been here, to go play at a JUCO in Charlotte, or go play at a JUCO in Asheville. Because there is no option to do that. That's huge. That's huge. So we just thought that the opportunity was right down the street, right there. But it didn't materialize because Mr. Holmes owns that land.
Just to be clear, you're talking about the Reese Farm that would be.
Yeah, the commercially zoned area of Reese Farm, not what Ashton bought.
The north side of.
Yeah, that's commercial.
Yeah.
But didn't work out. So, but that to us, we all collectively agreed that's your synergy right there. It would even help this center right here.
Okay.
It would help the ad center. But, all right, you're gonna go.
Well, appreciate you coming, and I think we got a lot of follow-up items to go through, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we don't have any closed sessions this evening, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved. Commissioner Vose, second. Second. Commissioner Foley, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.